Hello and welcome back to the Fuji Speedway here for round 2 of the Platinum Split here, the highest class in the VMS series here on Le Mans Ultimate. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, and variations thereupon, because we had a small technical issue that meant that the stream was basically a slideshow. Hopefully, you were able to see things. Unfortunately, there's no action on tracks. It's a bit difficult to tell the situations. But
Don't adjust your sets, nothing is actually moving. Oh, there we go. The camera moved.
What we are about to see, fingers crossed, is our GD3 field about to be released from the pit lane. So, Chris, now might be a good point to go over what the top 10 in our GD3 standings look like going into this first race. Remember, it's an endurance race tonight, so there's 39 points on the board for the winner, currently leading. As you can see, Kieran Prendergast, our reigning GD3 champion in endurance and sprint cup and overall, with Wojtek Polesny, the Czech driver, in second, Patrick Schindler, the German, in third, with his countryman Sebastian Funch in fourth. Rémi Delorme in the Aston Martin, the Frenchman, was fifth last time out at Imola, just beat Luke Whitehead, who, of course, qualified on pole last time and then got damaged in the pit lane because Andonovsky, who's got, I believe, a 30-place group penalty, if I'm not mistaken, basically tried to go too wide in the pit lane with him and ended up causing huge damage to himself, took himself out of the race in his Aston Martin and heavily damaged Luke Whitehead, who came out just behind Prendergast and then dropped to sixth by the end. But he defended incredibly well considering the damage he had. Thomas Leiden is a very credible seventh in his BMW. Then it's Marin Bessier, the Frenchman, in eighth. Michel Rodriguez, the Swedish driver, in ninth. And Mark Veit rounds out the top 10 with a single point to his name. There is Andonovsky, Luca Fingard, Regan Mitchell, Fabian Bellet, Luca Fingard, and Callum Cripps, who all had a bit of a difficult first race season, yet to get their names on the scoreboard, but they could well turn things around today if they stay out of trouble. But of course, Andonovsky may not even take part in this qualifying session, given the heavy penalty that's hanging over him effectively. As we now cut to the track, and there is Luke Whitehead stuck behind one of the Aston Martins then. We saw in the gold split last week, didn't we, Chris, that the GD3s, there's a couple of points on this track where you can really tell the difference between some of these manufacturers. We saw the BMW 1 in the hands of Giovannini, wasn't it, who won the GD3 class overall from a Ferrari, and then I think pretty much the rest of our frontrunners were all in Mustangs. So the Mustang, as we say, very much the car of choice, the sort of all-rounder, but the likes of the Aston Martin might well surprise as we see as that one of the Porsches going very, very slowly just to let Rémi Delorme and Luke Whitehead through there. Those two, Delorme and Whitehead, should be ones to watch then in this quali session. As everybody is crowding at the final corner.
Luke Whitehead is eager to get on with it, but then you have to remember Luke Whitehead led a lot, certainly the first half of Imola last time out. So yeah, he is keen to get out there and get on with it. Does the Ferrari have the outright pace over the rest of the field? We will have to see. I was just about to comment, there wasn't a Luca Thingard that was for once we only have one car of that number, so if we see number 91 we know it is Luca Thingard's Porsche. Riding on board with Patrick Schindler into the braking zone for Daichi was turn 1. Flat out through 2, you don't really pay too much attention to that. Over to the right hand side, turn 3, Coca-Cola turn, down to third, ride as much of the apex as you dare, let the car wander over. I am looking skywards and it is very, very dark indeed, very ominous. We don't know what the weather is doing. We'll have to wait and see. 100R just turned 4 and 5. That is now navigated down through the gears once again into the hairpin. Turn 6, hard on the gas now. Turn 7 is pretty non-existent, has already been and gone. Turn 8, again, you don't really think about it even in the wet. You don't need to deal with it too much. Turn 9, again, 300R, you're not thinking about that. Now it's heavy on the brakes. We saw a lot of banzai moves into the Dunlop corner, which is turn 10, that heavy right-hander last time out for the gold split. And I expect to see the same again. Turn 11 and 12 is already done. 13, 14, now coming up towards net corner, because we saw a few incidents up here last time, particularly for some cars getting very, very loose through this particular section. Turn 16, Panasonic corner, our final turn. Very, very important to get this right because you're on the gas for a very long period of time. Again, we're just as I'm watching the Ford, still looks a little bit uncomfortable trying to find the traction out of that final turn. So now these times coming in, let's see who's going to be coming well. Well, Liskovic was the first to set a time with 1:41.826. These times, some people were somewhat tripping over each other to find a bit of free space. So 39.9 from Patrick Schindler, as we've just rode on board with, is our benchmark so far.
Yeah, there we go. So Luke Whitehead is slotted in about 2 tenths behind, and Marin Basir has set a very, very competitive time here to split Whitehead and Delorme. So that's 2 Aston Martins actually in 3rd and 4th. Prendergast, championship leader and reigning champion, is in 5th at the moment, just ahead of his old rival Sebastian Wunsch. Yeah, so very, very close. Delorme is only 1,000th actually behind Marin Basir's time there in 1st. So it's all very, very close. Patrick Schindler, we were riding on board what was the provisional pole lap there. So that was really, really interesting to see how he got on there. And of course, he was, I think, a little bit unlucky not to finish ahead of Polesny in that. There was a very, very close fight for second already throughout the second half of the race at Imola. As we see, the BMW Thomas Lydon has completely lit up the first sector, and he's flashing his lights at the other GT3 cars. So this is the problem with having a more populated GT3 field this season around, is that you're all just fighting for space on track. This is looking like a really, really quick lap here. So this is, Fuji is clearly BMW territory in the GT3 class then, as Lydon still not quite able to clear the 777. I think that's Delorme just getting out of the way there before the final corner. Could be Mark Veit as well in the identical car, of course. Lydon now will run to the line. Is this going to be enough to displace Patrick Schindler from the top of the table? A promising lap so far. It's going to be a 1:39.2. There we go. 2 tenths clear of it was 2 tenths clear of Kim Prendergast. Now Luke Whitehead has actually gone fastest by half a second there. So we were watching Lydon, the BMW, but it was Whitehead in the Ferrari we should have had our eyes on, Chris.
Yeah, Luke Whitehead qualified very, very well. Pre-qualified pole. Last
time
out,
much better.
Not really. Again, wasn't huge gaps we saw up top. So, yeah, he didn't have it all his own way. He didn't just waltz off into the distance. He really had to fight for that. Everyone, and this is what I really, really love about the split, everyone has to fight for their position. There's no really big, deltas between times. As we're now looking at, we were looking at Lucas Korsch yet to get a time on the board. Him and Adanovsky, we suspect isn't going to be joining this session due to that penalty that he is carrying. We're looking at Patrick Schindler, the first man to get into the 39s of the session. Again, you see the Mustang just not quite biting. It's a big slide coming out of turn 11, although these are personal best sectors he is setting. You can see that with the green highlights in the bottom right-hand corner. Sector 1 and 2, personal best so far, although slightly off ultimate pace of Luke Whitehead. Again, sole Ferrari in this field, but Luke Whitehead pedals it very, very well, although the strategy was what really let him down last time out. Came home in 6th position, having led for certainly the considerable amount of the first half of the race in Imola. What does Patrick Schindler get on the board? It's a 39.308, which puts Patrick up into 3rd as our lead forward.
Yep, very, very close actually to the back over Thomas Lydon. 62 thousandths then behind Lydon, who is continuing his bid. 7th last time out, of course. Lydon, if this is a circuit as we suspect, because the BMW won here in Contender last season. It won a week ago in the Gold Split, which is what Contender is effectively sort of morphed into. And there's every chance that it could win here, though of course it was the McLaren in the hands of Prendergast. Prendergast actually took his, with only 3 rounds to go in the season, took his first win last season, and then went on to sort of dominate the final 3 races and sealed all 3 GT3 championships, despite a strong challenge from Sebastian Wunsch, who was actually a big threat to him earlier on in that first season. There's Wojciech Polesny then, 5th at the moment, just behind Kieran Prendergast. The margins, especially between all our Mustang runners, are very, very tight. It's really only Whitehead in that Ferrari that has been able to unlock. And Luke Whitehead has been, it's interesting how he's been saying, oh, if only there was a way to practice on the server in the week leading up to the race, I'd feel so much more comfortable. And then come qualifying, he's just able to
Yeah.
blitz everybody. So it almost makes you wonder how much quicker, even more quicker he would be if he was given that sort of extra practice time that he wanted. I guess everyone else would argue, well, if we were able to practice, we'd be right on Luke's pace anyway, even with the different cars we're driving. But it's very, very interesting how Whitehead, the Ferrari, was not seen as the car of choice going into this GT3 season, and yet he's absolutely turned it around.
Yeah, absolutely true. I mean, all racing drivers want more practice, want more pace, always want for something. They're never fully happy, are they? As we see the Corvette now of Owen Liskowitz. Liskowitz. See, I've always got to get someone's name wrong.
It's always the Polish drivers, isn't it? Hutrishki, Liskowitz.
Hutrishki. Again, that was the one I really, really struggled with last time. I do intend to get everybody's name right, and I apologize in advance for anyone's name I utterly murder throughout the course of the broadcast. Well, you see the American brands, the Ford, the Mustang behind, not 100% sure which 88 that is behind. Was it Schindler that was the one sliding around? It was indeed, as the Corvette jumps out of the way. So Liskowitz gets out of Patrick Schindler's way. But seeing again a lot of that sliding going on. It seems to be a bit more controlled from certainly at this point in time. The cars are pretty light. The track temperature is what it is, although it does look like the sun is out at the moment, so no immediate sign of rain. There is our GT3 leader, our current champion, Kieran Prendergast, in again his trusty Ford. He didn't have it all his own way last time out, but strategy and experience paid off to seal the win last time out in Imola. Currently 5th, 7/10 off the top spot. Does he improve on this time? 139.472 his current time. And no, he's bailed on that one. 138.738, still a storming lap from Patrick Whitehead. Patrick Whitehead? What am I on about? Luke Whitehead.
We're combining drivers again.
Yeah, it's going to happen. If I'm...
It's just a little bit like where you get like your action figures and like you put the head of one onto the body, like Lego. You put the head of one onto the body of another. So we've got Patrick Schindler, Patrick Whitehead, and Luke Schindler. Apparently. Yeah. Oh, Pelesny fourth fastest. Yeah, the Mustangs are really starting to pick up pace as the session goes on because Schindler is now a 10th ahead of Leiden. But yeah, Whitehead, he seems quite comfortable at the moment, I think. And he's not quite able to match that 38.7 that he's been doing earlier. But with time running out in this session, he seems to have it all made. Also, honorable mention to Callum Cripps. The Porsche was certainly not seen as the favored car going in. And he's just about nipped into the top 10 ahead of Fabian Ballet, who, of course, spent most of last season behind Callum Cripps in the McLaren. He hoped things would be different in the Mustang versus the Porsche. But Callum Cripps, again, he's always seems to be the underdog, one of the underdogs in the GT3 class, where he just gets he's not one of the more fancied runners, but of course he does drive for Brabham Esports. They have seen his talent, and he's had a few podiums to his name last season as well. He's always able to just sneak in when you least expect it, and he if he gets into a high position, he will defend like crazy, as we have seen last season. So yeah, Callum Cripps will feel satisfied with that. And is that all the action done for our GT3s then? Because that means Luke Whitehead, second pole position in a row. Can he convert it to victory this time, I wonder, Chris?
Only one way to find out. And it's a long old race this time. As Ed was saying at the top of the show, it's 2.4 hours, 2 hours, 40 minutes of Fuji, as we had for the as we had last time out for our gold split. So our GT3s line up as Luke Whitehead and Patrick. I nearly did it again. Patrick Whitehead. What? Don't ask. Don't know. Luke Whitehead alongside Patrick Schindler will have the front row. Ferrari alongside Mustang. And behind them on row 2 is Thomas Linden and Wojtek Pelesny. So that is BMW, one of the few Beamers in the field, alongside the second of the Mustangs. Row 3 is Marlon Bessier and Kieran Prendergast. Again, Kieran didn't qualify particularly well last time compared to where we expected to be, and then just at the start of the gods, I think it was top 3 before we'd even got half a lap done, if memory serves, last time out. But again, disqualifying, not quite there. I mean, the points are dished out when the checkered flag falls, in fairness. So Prendergast may well just be kind of feeling his way around, but it worked for him last time. So let's see if it works for him again. So we can see, I'm not sure who we're on board with at the
That's
moment.
Jules Neal, isn't it? In the Seoul
Oh, in the
Alpine.
Seoul Alpine, yes, well remembered. So yes, the 35 driver quite clearly ready to get on with it. They cannot leave their pit garages until 10 minutes is remaining on the clock. That's why none of the hypercars are moving, so that both categories get 10 minutes plus however long they need to finish their remaining laps. So what do we get to? So row 4 then is going to be Sebastian Wunsch and Remy Delorme in the Mustang and Aston Martin respectively. And then our lead Porsche of Callum Cripps is going to be alongside Fabian Bally on row 5, Porsche and Mustang. Sol McLaren in the field of Regan Mitchell alongside That's not fair. Regan Mitchell and Mitchell Rodriguez. RM and MR.
We call him Michelle Rodriguez rather than Mitchell. Mitchell and Michelle.
You see, I'm already getting it muddled up, like so. I should have said. I said they couldn't leave the pit garages earlier on. That's incorrect. They're not allowed to leave the pit lane until 10 minutes is remaining on the clock. So I had that slightly incorrect. My apologies. So yes, it is Mitchell and Rodriguez. I'll stick with surnames. It's going to be slightly easier for me. On row 6, McLaren and Ford. And then row 7 is Lucas Korsch and Mark Viet in the BMW and Aston respectively. Then it is our sole American brand. No, it is Sol Corvette on row 8, which is Erwin Niskowitz and Luca Thingard alongside him in the Porsche. And with Tomasz Adanowski opting not to set a qualifying lap due to the penalty he is carrying. Right, so then our hypercars then are ready and waiting to leave. Let's have a look at how the championship standings look for the hypercars. So Fabio Grigoletto did a sterling job last time out, beating out the Peugeot of Jene Simoncic, and rounding out the podium with Nicholas Hauben. Davor Mrocek in the lead Toyota came home in 4th. Marco De Bueno in 5th. A sea of Ferraris in our hypercar class. Henrik Gamble came home in 6th. Michi Hoyer from Germany kind of thought he may be a little bit higher up the field. Probably so did he. Came home in 7th. Arden Ercan in 8th with Sven Gilhut, who was lead time in the practice session leading into now, as we saw. But he finished in 9th last time out, with Paul Lapierre rounding out the top 10 and the point scorers from Imola. Those yet to get off the mark are so far Walton Triller, James Baldwin, Joe McCauley, Daniele Farinelli, Jules Neal, our sole Alpine runner, Jack McConnell, Michele. Again, I apologize in advance. I know I'm going to get this wrong. Our sole Lamborghini driver of Hruchiski and David Levis in the Porsche, all yet to get off the mark. Riding on board then with our Alpine driver of Jules Neal. Oops, someone's wandered off the road somewhere, causing a bit of a yellow. So then this is down towards turn 10. Trying to get some life in the brakes, some heat and what have you. Just chucking the car around. We know this warm-up procedure by now. They really have got to very, very much throw the car around. It does look like the sun that had come out has gone again. So, again, the yellow flags will be caught because cars are slow on track. Yes, of course they are, because they're trying to find a bit of space. So then, will Sven Gilhut continue his pace from the practice session, or will Grigoletto, Simoncic, Hubin, etc. regain their top spots? Let's ride on board then with Jules Neal in the Alpine. We rode on board with Patrick Schindler in the beginning of the GT3 session. Let's see how the Alpine deals with Fuji then. Foot hard down, over 300 kilometers an hour before you even cross the line. And then it's heavy on the brakes for Daichi, turn 1. We saw quite a lot of attempts being made into that turn 1 last time out. A lot of slick dreaming of side-by-sides, as you would imagine, along that very, very long back straight. Turn 2 was already gone. Turn 3, Coca-Cola. Oh, the Alpine didn't look like it was very comfortable turning into that. Was a lot of lock there for the Alpine. Turn 4 and 5, 100R for Jules Neal. And then turn 6 makes the hairpin. Turn 7 is fairly non-existent. Turn 8 is even less existent. There's a vague steer. Turn 9 is much the same. And down through the gears once again for Dunlop Corner. Niklas Hubin is first to get a time on the board with a 26.9, but again, these times may will certainly come down. Again, not everybody is going to have a perfectly clean lap in these first opening gambits. Jules Neal comes through turns 14 and 15, now swings out, gets the maximum opening for turn 16. Look how much opposite lock you've got to put in. Bearing in mind, it is uphill, it's off camber, and it's very easy to upset the car, especially the hypercars. On the gas and along towards the line for Jules Neal et al. And David Morocek now has the top time on the board with a 26.876. The Toyota and a sea of Ferraris. Look at that. 7. Well, yeah, what's that? 8 of the top 9? No, sorry, 7 of the top 9 are Ferraris. So, I mean, they are the most numerous, most populous brand of the hypercar that's represented. Over half the field are indeed Ferraris. And Gielhout really picking up where he left off. Already purple sector 1 on his second run. And these... Oh, hello. You can't park there, sir. I don't know who that was. Who was... Oh, it was Gamble. Henri Gamble that had fallen by the wayside. He's 6th in the championship at the moment. Picking himself quite an unusual spectator spot on the exit of turn 12. And Sven Gielhout, yeah, that did wrong foot him a little bit. He lost the 10th coming through sector 2. Oh, Richie Hoyer, 9 thousandths off the top of the tree then. 26.885 for him. Here comes Sven Gielhout. What can he get on the board? The Dutch driver gets pole, 126.423. Still time for him to find. There's Yannis Simičić in the Peugeot. Only a couple of Peugeots, literally only 2 Peugeots in the field this season so far, and that's 5th, 26.946. Very nicely done for the Slovakian driver. Joe McCauley in the other of the Peugeots. 2nd, 26.742. Well, that time's going to continue to come down, but again, as we saw from Luke Whitehead, he set an early pace with quite a comparatively big gap, 3/10 between Gielhout and the rest of the field, a second separating 14 cars in the hypercar field. We saw this last week. The times were so incredibly close, and it makes for an incredible, and that was only an hour. Oh dear, Marco Bueno is going for a bit of a wander on the outside of that. Looks like, yeah, that was coming through turn 4, so he's gone too wide on the turn 3 and had a bit of a spin. Here goes Michi Hoyer. Can he improve from what is now 5th position for him? Not, no, he doesn't. So 26.885 still his time. So he was probably having a bit of a cool down lap, or maybe he was disadvantaged in some way, the German driver. On he goes. Who shall we low? Well, we can still continue with Michi Hoyer, as now Niklas Hubin has got 2nd on the board. That our race went out from last time out in Imola. Fabio Grigoletto, the Italian, currently in 6th position. And that's a personal best for sector 1. Just a couple of tenths shy of Sven Gielhout. Niklas Hubin has brought that gap down to just under 3/10 of a second now between here the rest of the field and Sven Gielhout. Now 15 cars within a second of that time, of that pole time. And indeed, the only car not within a second of the pole time is Marco Bueno. All purple sector 2 by 1/1000th of a second from Grigoletto. Very, very close indeed. Well, you can. I don't think that's intended as flash of the lights, because the next car down the road is not that close. Oh, wow. That was very nearly thrown off the road. Looked like he was going to bring that one in. Michi Hoyer, does he improve? 2/1000ths off his personal best sector time. He improves in time, but not position. There's Michi Hoyer. Utrisky. Not got, well, sorry, he has got a time on the board. It's just shy of 8/10 off the top spot at the moment. Still, mind you, I was going to say there's still time out there for people to improve. There is, but there isn't much of it, Ed. There's only 2 minutes left.
Yep, you really haven't got a lot of time if you're trying to squeeze those last couple of tenths out to get an advantage here. But of course, Sven Gielhed in that 83 doing a fantastic job. The 126.4, that puts him almost 3 tenths ahead of Nikolaus Huben. So it's a very mixed up grid with our top two in the championship. Grigoletto down in 7th, Simoncic down in 9th, just struggling to hold into the top 10, but he's only half a second off the pace. So he's still getting decent times out of that Peugeot, albeit not quite as much time as Joe McCauley. As we see Hutrishki, just going straight on after the first corner. And that might be the end of his qualifying session then. 13th fastest for our reigning contender Hypercar champion after making... he was very quick in Imola, but he made a couple of poor strategy calls that didn't quite pan out for him in the wet conditions, where he switched back to the dries at the end and then ended up retiring from the race, of course. So... yeah, definitely a little bit tricky for our sole Lamborghini. But meanwhile, it's the Toyotas, the Peugeots, and the Ferraris that are playing up front, as we see Marco Di Buono, who was in the top 5 in the first race, down in 16th at the moment, starting his final flying lap, Chris. This is a crucial one for Marco.
Yeah, absolutely so. He had that spin on the exit of turn 3 on his last flying lap. He's just got to settle himself back down, find that rhythm again. Clear, which is easier said than done. Sometimes those little mistakes kind of weigh on your mind a bit, but then the ability just to kind of reset and get back on with it is what separates the good from the great. And these are some of the best in the business that are taking part in this championship. Personal best for Marco Buono, just a tenth and a half and some change off of overall pace at the moment. So somewhat of an improvement from the time that he's put on the board at 127.711. Down through the gears once again, coming through turn 10. We have already seen cars having spins down in that section. We saw it once or twice last time out, and I highly imagine we will see the same again, especially if the weather has a part to play. Another personal best for Buono. Where will this put him?
This is sort of Grigoletto Simoncic territory he's looking at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely so. And that is not anything to be upset about at all. No, the checker flag is out. Most cars are back in the pits. And where does this lap put Marco Buono? It slots him in 11th. Well, exactly where you saying it was going to put him. Arda Ercan has not improved in his first sector. Already 2.5 tenths down. However, personal best sector 2, so he's looking at possibly a top 5 here if he can continue this momentum. Let's see what he's able to do. Turn 15. Oh, and that's again the tail getting loose. We saw that a lot last week, didn't we?
Yeah, he wasn't too far off in that first sector, so even though it's 2.5 tenths down on Gielhed, this might be good enough to gain him a couple of positions, get him solidly into the top 10. The Turkish driver powers towards the line. What is the 51 going to do on that timing board? Does he squeeze further up the top 10? He gains, just a little bit of time to get a bit further ahead of Buono, but he isn't able to leapfrog Simoncic then. So Arda Ercan will remain 10th then.
It just goes to show how close the field is. Absolutely incredible for the entire field separated by less than a second. Separates all 16 of our hypercar class.
Ooh, I'd not noticed that. David Mrocek put an amazing lap to get second. He was a thousandth ahead of Nikolaus Huben in that fight for second. Then Joe McCauley was only 4 thousandths behind him. So amazing late lap from our third place finisher last season, David Mrocek in that Toyota. So the Toyota has found some form all of a sudden right at the end.
Indeed. So then our grid for the hypercar class looks like so. Sven Gielhed with that amazing lap was not to be beaten in the end. Is alongside David Mrocek. It's Ferrari and Toyota on the front row. Nicholas Huben and Joe McCauley, Ferrari and Peugeot, have row 2. Jack McConnell and Michi Hoyer in Toyota and Ferrari respectively have row 3 to themselves. Last time winner Grigoletto in 7th, down on row 4, along with Henri Gamble having that spin early on in the session. Yoni Simoncic lead Peugeot alongside Arda Ercan, round out the top 10. Row 6th, Marco Buono and Daniele Farinelli, I will get it right, I promise you, have row 6. Row 7 is Jules Neal and Miklo Hutriski. And a final row for our hypercars is Walter Nucilla and Paul Lapierre. Into our GT3s, Luke Whitehead holding on to that top spot very early on and not challenged. Patrick Schindler, best of the rest, joins him on the front row of the GT3s. Row 2 is Thomas Leiden and Wojciech Pelesny, BMW and Ford. And then it's a lead Aston of Marin Bassier alongside Kieran Prendergast for the third row of the GT3s. Row 4 is Sebastian Wunsch and Remy Delorme. So Ford and Aston Martin. Row 5 is Callum Cripps, the lead Porsche, alongside Fabio Ballet in the next of the Mustangs. Row 7 is looking at Regan Mitchell and Michelle Rodriguez. We'll get it right. And then it's Lucas Korsch in the BMW alongside Mark Viet, second of the Astons. Row 16 overall is Owen Liskowitz in the Soul Corvette and Luca Thingard in the next Porsche, with Timotej Adanovsky opting not to set a qualifying lap, which in a 2.4-hour race is not the end of the world. You will have time to make up for that. But we know how close this field is. It's that even that is going to be a very big ask for Adanovsky to improve. But we will see as the race continues.
Well, he's got 2 hours 40 minutes to make his way up the field. That's a long time. I would not be surprised if Andonovsky maybe runs a bit longer than some of the cars around him. If that Aston Martin's got decent fuel mileage, that could come into play. But we believe the Porsche is pretty strong on the fuel mileage. The BMW as well. We saw Luca Thingard actually was able to really stretch a lot of his GT3 stints to the point that he'd always be able to lead a lap, even if he wasn't running right at the sharp end of the field. So, yeah, we could see some interesting strategies mixing up. Who also is going to try and double stint the tires at the first stint? That could be decisive. Of course, we saw a couple of times where it's the way to go and other times where you just absolutely leave yourself a sitting duck to the people who do change tires and are just so much quicker. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities here at Fuji Speedway then. So we're certainly guaranteed some action, Chris. But for Sven Gielhed, Davin Rocek and Nicolas Huben, this is a big opportunity to gain ground on the championship if Grigoletto and Simičić are mired down in the pack.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Is who's going to gun for those top spots? We had that absolutely blinding start, didn't we, last time out in the hypercars? Again, memory fails me on who it was in the gold split that just had a start of the gods, ran off, and then was very slowly reeled in.
It was Simičić, wasn't it? Yeah, with that battle with Grigoletto. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of the gold split last week.
Okay.
And I've forgotten who it was, much to my shame. But the field now rolling. We'll see then how this first lap is going to fall. Let us see then. Gielhud and Mrocek, Ferrari and Toyota have that front row. With
green flag.
Peugeot.
We go.
And here we go then. We are racing 2 hours 40 minutes of Fuji, and everybody is keen to find their own bit of real estate. Oh god, the GT3 is getting lively behind. One of the Astons had an absolute cracker start. I think it'll be Bessier that's had an amazing start. Look at the Peugeot. That's Macaulay. He's trying to do an outside maneuver. He's going to be run out. He's going to have a drive 3 wide as they come through turn 2. Oh, that got very, very lively. He almost won out.
Oh, look at the lead fight. Gielhed and Mrocek side by side, and Coca-Cola is all. Joe Macaulay has to back right out, and it's almost collected by Simičić there. It's absolutely chaotic here as all. Mrocek cuts across round the outside of Davin Mrocek and snatches the lead on the first lap of the race. But has he gone a bit too deep into turn 6? Gielhed is still there, Chris. This is absolutely incredible. And Nicolas Huben is just hoping they all use up all their resources fighting each other so he can sneak past once they're exhausted at the end. But Mrocek's still up the inside. Oh, a little bit of contact there. He squeezes out Sven Gielhed there, and Mrocek holds on to the lead, but only by a thin, narrow margin, and Gielhed knows that he's got to strike now and reassert himself as this time he pushes Mrocek off track and into the path of Huben here. Wow, what a first lap.
Absolutely. They do know it's a long race. Well, I'm sure they hope. I hope they realise it's a long race, otherwise they're in for a bit of a rude awakening. Gielhud had to really work to hang on to that lead. So it's Gielhud, Mrocek, Huben, McConnell and Hoyer is your top 5 as they come over the line, with the entire hypercar field all still very, very close together. Let's have a look at our GT3s. Whitehead, Leiden, Schindler, Pelesny and Bessier, your top 5. So broadly in the positions they qualified in. A little bit of a shuffling around as we cut back to our hypercar class. Now, they are starting to establish their kind of routine. You know, the positions they're going to stay in for a little while, although right behind Michi Hoyer, one of the Ferraris getting a bit uncomfortable. Oh, 3 wide coming down into the first turn again for our DD3s. Callum Cripps is the big loser there. Several cars getting past him. Absolutely nothing he can do. He's trying to sit in the slipstream. That's Adanovsky that is right behind him. So the Aston has made up 3 positions on the first. Oh, 4 as he dives on the inside of Callum Cripps. He's wanting to try and make hay when the sun shines. So I wonder whether he's actually gone for a shorter pit stop strategy, maybe gone a bit of a whoops as Jules Neal nudges the back of Farinelli, making the Alpine try and integrate yourself with the Ferrari. That's not how these things work.
Looks like Grigoletto's just passed Michi Hoyer for 5th in Hypercar there as we look at Patrick Schindler, who got passed by Thomas Lydon, Chris, on the first lap there, trying to get that Mustang back on top here. So it's the Mustangs have been beaten back to 3rd and 4th there as we see, there's Grigoletto leading, or not leading a train. Hoyer's gotten back in front of him at the final corner. And you can see, I think that's Joe McCauley just behind, no, Tijani Simičić, sorry. Just with Arda Ercan slipstreaming him down this straight, and Ercan pulls to the inside as Hoyer and Grigoletto go side by side into the first corner as well. Is there going to be enough room for all 3 of our Ferraris here? Oh, and a little bit of a hip check there. I think that was Grigoletto being forced out there as Michi Hoyer was very, very firm, not going to be breezed out of the way by a championship leader, is he?
No, indeed. Everybody is fighting hard for their own bit of real estate, as mentioned, and so they should. And yeah, they're not just going to let the laps roll by. They are wanting to establish themselves very early on. That's exactly what Geelhood and Whitehead, respectively, had done in their classes. Whitehead, a 1.5 seconds ahead of the field at the moment, and 0.8 of a second for Geelhood currently, but we know how quickly that can disappear, so that is not safe by any stretch of the imagination. As we look at Niklas Huben fending off the advances of Jack McConnell's Toyota, so this is for 3rd currently in the hypercar class, and then a sea of Ferraris right behind, being led by Michi Hoyer. So have they settled into their rhythm? Well, they have to a point, but yeah, these 3 cars here, they may all be red. They are not on the same team. They're all fighting for their own glory. Yeah,
and bad news for Simičić, because now he's got 2 Ferraris, 1 Ferrari between himself and Grigoletto rather than being right behind. So Ercan has very much thrown a spanner in the works. And we see there's another Ferrari about to pass. That's Marco Di Buono, of course, who qualified down in 13th, now starting to make up ground past the man who is the reigning endurance champion, of course. Jene Simičić loses no, it's Joe McCauley, sorry, that's been dropped out. It's the 83 just ahead of Henrik Gamble that's all over the back of Simičić. I'm getting my 2 Peugeots mixed up. The 94 is Simičić, who goes well over the curb there, but it seems both Peugeots really struggling in this first stint as Gamble nearly hits the back through 100R there. Very well collected. The headlights are on. It's starting to get very, very overcast here. I wonder if that means rain's on the way, and I wonder if the Peugeots have set up their car begging it to rain, basically. But the forecast I saw was just overcast, so we'll have to see if that changes.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and this would explain why a lot of people are trying to really make the best of the situation now. If it is going to rain, they want to be as far up the road as they possibly can. But we know how close this field is. As we've just seen in qualifying, the entire hypercar class separated by less than a second. They're not all in Ferraris. A lot of them are, but not all of them are the same mark. So that is very, very, a testament to just how good and how closely matched all these drivers are. Look at this. That was one of the yellow Ferrari almost coming a cropper there, wandering off the road. As we're focusing on Joe McCauley in the Peugeot, as it was Gamble. That's, I say, he did have that moment in qualifying, didn't he, where he was parked up where he shouldn't be, and that's a very robust defence there from Simičić. Is it going to pay off? Gamble trying to force his way through on the inside line. He's compromised his exit. That Peugeot just all over the place, dancing under power. Still side by side, coming down towards turn 3. Who's going to win out here? Is it Peugeot or Ferrari? Is it Simičić or Gamble? Gamble's still there. He wants the inside line for 100R, which he's got. That should be job done. Jene Simičić has got to relent that 8th position to Gamble.
Yeah, and look at this, De Buono and Joe McCauley getting very, very close behind him as well. Yeah, and Simoncic is genuinely struggling. And you saw Henrik Gamble, having narrowly avoided hitting the back of Simoncic a lap before, was not going to waste any time, because look at the gap in front of him, up to a 7th position there with that Grigoletto-Hoyer battle, and Ayachan as well. He wants to be part of that. Meanwhile, here is GD3's. There is Andonovsky, who's gone from the very back of the grid up to 11th, so he's gained 4 or 5 positions. But now Fabian Ballet in that Mustang. We know the Mustang has got a lot of grunt, some decent straight line speed. And yeah, the Aston Martins are going to have to work overtime, I think, to keep the Mustangs behind down that start-finish straight and make up the time elsewhere on track. That's what we saw in the gold split, where it was, I believe, Liam Rance that was able to run quite high up with the Aston Martin for quite a long while in the race. But now we see Walton Atrilla fancies the run at Daniele Farinelli then, as the two Ferraris, the yellow and red, go side by side. Jules Neal in the Alpine is slipstreaming Atrilla, and Atrilla, who was so strong, won the contender race at Sebring last season, is all over the back of Farinelli, whose best finish in the Platinum Split is 5th at this race last season as well. So still a long way to go. Atrilla was not able to get through, and now Jules Neal senses an opportunity around the outside. The Frenchman in the Alpine, a little bit wrong-footed by Atrilla, and that's going to put Hatrushki into the box seats here. So this is right at the back of the Hypercar field, but they're fighting ferociously for any little chance at points. Big dive from Mikolaj Hatrushki, and Neal is barged out the way in that Alpine, and he's flashing his lights very discontently indeed as Paul Lepere now takes advantage to pass his fellow countryman.
Yeah, Jules Neal not happy with that particular move, as Lapierre chooses not to try and
very wise
on the outside. I suspect so, yes. But towards the sharper end of the GD3 field, it is Wojtek Polesny and Marin Basia that we're looking at now in the Mustang and the Aston Martin respectively, being chased by another of the yellow Mustangs. That is Sebastian Wunsch that is rounding up this particular trio. Again, you can still see the tails of everybody just getting a bit uncomfortable under power. So we saw this a lot last time in our last week in our gold split. We're seeing it again. Oh, that's I don't think you're going to make that work, but a bold effort to try and do an outside maneuver on our 100R, as we see Niklas Hubin defending again from Rytec. He's gone a little bit deep. Is this an opportunity now from the Toyota? Not quite. That door gets slammed in his face.
That's Hubin getting past Chris. So he made the slipstream move down the straight and then went a little deep into Daichi, that first hairpin. So yeah, Marocek, now he's down to 3rd place. He's got the other Toyota of Jack McConnell closing down upon him. Look at McConnell controlling the slide through 100R there. So the two Toyotas, the danger now is they fight each other, and Hubin and Gilad just run away with this one.
That is the danger, but everybody seems to be fighting everybody else at the moment, as we cut back to this battle for, well, essentially 3rd, the last step on the podium for now. Wunsch on the back of Bassier, and Bassier on the back of Polesny, as you can see on the GT3 tower that is now being displayed. So look at that, there's the biggest gap we've got throughout the entire GT3 field is 9th to 10th, Porsche de Vite, the BMW 2, the second of the Aston Martins. And that's only 2.5 seconds, 2.6 seconds. So no huge gaps in the GT3 field. Look at that, you can see them all streaming into shot along that back straight as Bassier gets the inside line, gets a bit uncomfortable under braking. Can Wunsch cut underneath him? No, the Aston parks himself on the apex. A tiny bit wide on the exit. Oh, the hypercars are now coming to lap our GT3s. So is this an opportunity now for people to start shuffling around? We saw this numerous times before, didn't we, where hypercars were getting boxed in behind the GT3s. Of course, the GT3s are, at their most bunched up at the moment. So this is a very nervous time for our hypercars.
Yeah, especially this middle sector where there's so many fast corners. You really don't want to be caught unawares and then have a hypercar slam into the back of you, because that can be a mutually assured destruction effectively for both of your races there. As we see the Corvette there of Erwin Liskowitz going side by side with one of the Porsches. I think that must have been Callum Krups there. He's in the middle of a big fight with Grigoletto. He's trying to get into the top 5 there. He's been keeping Michi Hoyer as honest as he can, as we're actually running on board with Michi Hoyer, of course, in the similar number 50 Ferrari, so it's a bit difficult to tell them apart from the onboard shot especially, but you can see McConnell and Marocek duking it out in front of them. There is, I think, that's the 27 of Marin Bassier being dispensed with there. Bessier is actually defending really, really well from Polesny, is our reigning GD3 contender champion, who, of course, won that championship in slightly controversial circumstances with, of course, it was Vasquez Simonian that got the penalty at Le Mans, the final race of that season. But Bessier has qualified really, really well here and has sort of kept that momentum going into the Platinum Split against some top drivers, which is certainly impressive to see as we cut back now to Marco de Buono, who I think has gotten past Joe McCauley and snuck his way into the top 10, is now trying to keep Simoncic honest, as we see Sebastian Bunch muscle his way past Wojtek Polesny. And now we see Hypercars dueling it their way through as well. So, yeah, Polesny is in trouble here. Now Prendergast fancies a go at it.
Yeah, Prendergast hasn't made an awful lot of progress yet, but again, like he did before in Imola, could well just be biding his time. That is such a scary time for not only the Hypercars, but also the GT3. There's so much machinery all occupying the same bit of real estate. My God, that was a big move from the Ferrari, just getting past Gerard Prendergast. So side by side for Polesny and Wunsch, whilst the Hypercars are still dancing around them. Oh my God! And nearly all coming together, 3 wide on the exit. A 300R is not commonly what you see.
Whoa!
Spin! Which one of the Ferraris has spun? Someone has missed their braking point, locked up. It was Farinelli. That is, or no, was it De Buono? One of the two.
I think it must have been Farinelli.
No, Farinelli. Yes, you're right. So. Locked up, went into a little bit too deep, probably a little bit distracted by, and not entirely surprising, but just the amount of machinery around him. But looks like he recovered fairly quickly. That's not what you want to be doing. It's Jack McConnell side with Michi Hoyer. Oh, who's going to win out indeed? Looks like the Toyota has got the legs on the exit of the final turn and regains 4th.
Yeah, you can see the straight line speed of McConnell's Toyota is really, really good here. But now Michi Hoyer tucks back in. They weave towards the pit wall. Hoyer is going for the racing line, but it's McConnell that's got the inside. And look, that's Erchan and I think De Buono dueling it away right behind him as well. But yeah, Jack McConnell just holds on. It was actually Fabio Grigoletto and Michi Hoyer, of course, right behind then with Erchan. So yeah, that was a tense moment there for McConnell, who just got wrong-footed in the traffic. That's given Davin Rotchek a little bit of breathing space, but he's losing touch with Gielhed and Niklas Huben as well. So it's really not worked out for our Toyota runners. Ferrari are continuing to run a race, and Huben is just getting a lovely slipstream from the back of that 83 Ferrari. But of course, how much fuel, how much of their tyres are they using in this stint, and how much is that going to affect their strategy in the long run here? And look at the virtual energy remaining as well. Rotchek and McConnell are saving a couple % more than our two leaders here. So they're keeping a bit in reserve, whereas Giel and Huben are just making hay while the sun shines. And indeed, it is starting to get a bit overcast, so it's not going to shine for significantly long in this race, you would think.
No, indeed. So most people, unlike last time, we saw quite a few different tyre strategies last time out. But most people going mediums all round, with the exception of Huben and Gamble opting for a mixture of the mediums and the hards. We don't know exactly how that is mixed up just yet. Hopefully we get an update on that one. But yeah, interesting. We saw a real wide variety of tyre strategies last time out in Imola. So interesting to see that most people have opted all for the same strategy. As we look at Wojtek Polesny and Kieran Prendergast now settling down into their rhythm. The early lap melees have, for the time being at least, been resolved. But we'll see how well they are able to maintain that, as that is Korsch and Viet side by side. Aston on the inside line. Can he get that 9th position from the BMW? Oh, that's going to put him too deep. Good effort, but not quite. Lucas Korsch regains 9th.
Yeah, there we go. So smart driving by Korsch. Wasn't going to be suckered in there. Mark Veit, I think, just, as you say, a little bit too late on the brakes there. And that meant that on the exit of the hairpin, he just wasn't going to have the traction or acceleration to hold on to that position there. And of course, you can't blame Mark Veit too much for going for dives like that, because the Aston Martin has got that little bit straight line speed disadvantage compared to the likes of the BMW. That's why Leiden is really excelling at the moment. And in fact, Luke Whitehead had pulled a nearly 2-second lead at one point, and Thomas Leiden has cut the gap to just 0.8 now. So GD3 are starting to bunch up at the front of their field, and meanwhile Huben still within half a second of the Gielhed. So after 20 minutes of running, they're not just spreading out. The leaders aren't escaping like we thought they would. Luke Whitehead is starting to play it strategically here. Maybe he doesn't see Thomas Lydon as a too big a threat at this phase of the race. He doesn't think the BMW is going to dive up the inside of him. He can afford to just preserve the tyres, preserve the fuel that little bit in this first stint to maybe eke out an extra lap or just put himself in a better position strategically as this race goes on. Because, of course, all of them are going to want to get to the end with as few stops as possible. With 2 hours 40 minutes, I think we're looking at at least 3 stops for pretty much the entire field here.
I would agree, but again, we don't know what the weather is going to do, if it's going to play a part. It is fairly dark out there at the moment, so it's very, very overcast. It had its role to play in Imola 2 weeks ago. We'll see if the damp stuff falls from the sky once again, as we look at Ardo Erchan on the back of Henrik, or briefly, on the back of Henrik Gambol, as Joe McCauley tries to find his way back past Daniele Farinelli. The Ferrari having that spin. Oh, and a big move there on the inside of turn 13. Can he get it done before they get up to nets? It's going to force the Toyota, the Peugeot rather, to the outside. Joe McCauley is very keen to get on with it at this stage. Again, he's positioning himself. He wants that cut back to try and get as good exit as he can from that final turn. But Farinelli, he knows how to park that Ferrari. Is he going to wander over to the right-hand side? What can Joe McCauley do here? Is he going to burn the battery to try and get past Farinelli? Farinelli's gone as hard as he can to the inside line to defend that corner, or his line into first turn. Joe McCauley draws alongside, but he knows that's not going to be enough. Tries to get the up and under. Can he get it done? No, not quite. Well, he's keen, but as of yet has not found a way past.
Yeah, and if you look ahead, I think ahead of Farinelli is Marco Di Bruno. And then it's there's a big gap, 2 or 3 seconds at least, to Gene Simoncic. So you can tell Joe McCauley, who remember led at Imola because he sort of underfueled the car in terms of virtual energy at his stop, which is why he was a bit undone at the end, of course. But he took the gamble to try and get that track position. And to be fair, it almost worked. Unfortunately, Fabio Grigoletto and Simoncic quite quickly picked him off. But you can tell, you can see Simoncic up the road, and he's just being backed into sort of tail enders, with all due respect, in Hypercar, and that's not really where he wants to be. So that's why he's so desperate to clear Farinelli, because he knows he's being held up here and he's not making the progress that I think he really would have hoped to. Look at Huben, by the way. He just keeps getting a little bit closer to Gielhed in the fight for the lead here, and he's well in the tow there. Look, Mrocek and McConnell nearly 2 seconds behind these two. So this is a case of, are they going to continue to just line astern in station behind one another, or is Nicolas Huben contemplating a move on Sven Gielhed in front of him? Because the Dutchman is going to defend every day of the week, I think, here.
Absolutely so. So that, like you said, that lead has eroded away. It wasn't particularly healthy to begin with, but Nicolas Huben in wonderful position just to keep that pressure on and maybe not just push too hard too soon. But unlike Adanovsky, that is now inside the top 10, as he's gotten past Lukas Kursch in the BMW. So Adanovsky, from the tail end of the GT3 field, has now got himself inside the top 10. The next Aston Martin, or one of the so there's either Veit or Delorme, I believe. There's one of the black and green Astons is just ahead of him.
There's Andonovsky and Veit then.
Yes.
Just inside the top 10, and Lukas Kursch has actually been beaten by Andonovsky now. So Andonovsky's pulling just a tiny gap, half a second, but that's enough to keep the BMW at bay there. So yeah, Andonovsky from the very back of the grid has done that pace that we saw at Imola was no fluke. No surprise to see the Ferrari Esports driver sneak his way into the top 10 while his quote-unquote teammate in the Ferrari Esports program, in an actual Ferrari rather than Aston Martin, is leading up front and is controlling the pace from Thomas Lydon, 1.1 seconds. Meanwhile, this is the fight for third. Marin Bessier, the Frenchman, all over the back of Germany's Patrick Schindler. And yeah, Schindler has just been on the defensive this entire stint, it's felt like. And Bessier, it's really great to see him just attacking so much, because that's exactly what he promised to do in Contender last season. If you watch the Contender race at Sebring last season, Bessier was sort of running in the mid-pack for quite a lot of it. And then when the rain fell, he just absolutely stormed his way to the front and won that particular race. It was an amazing drive. And it's great to see in dry conditions he can do it as well. So he's a very, very deserving contender champion, despite the circumstances that he won being a little bit controversial from the point of view of Askin Simonian, certainly. But yeah, Marin Bessier will not care one jot, and he is having an absolutely fabulous time at the moment then as we cut back to our Hypercar lead. And you can see actually Geelhead, now he's seeing traffic up ahead. He's starting to slow down a bit, and Davin Rockcheckers will win a second now of Nicolas Huben. As you can see, oh dear, that is Luca Fingard getting in the way of our race leader then. And now what was a two-way fight is slowly developing back into a freeway one, Chris.
Yeah, again, that Porsche getting very, very uncomfortable through Net's corner. That's given, I think it's Marocek we're riding a ball with, giving him a little bit of a tight line, or tighter line than he would have liked through that final turn. As once again, our Hypercars thread their way through the GT. Is that Callum Cripps that's fallen all the way down?
Oh, look at this. Huben very close now, pulling to the outside into turn one. Can he get through it? Daichi Geelhead defends the inside, and Huben is going to try and get the up and under and tuck underneath on the exit through to Coca-Cola, but Geelhead blocks it off very, very wisely indeed now as they lap one of the Mustangs there who just about gets out of the way, the 88, before they get into Coca-Cola there. So tense moment there for Geelhead, but he's not making any mistakes so far, holding off Huben convincingly at the moment, but it won't take much for Nicolas Huben to just dive up the inside here if there's even the slightest gap left open for him.
Yeah, as they come past Fabian Baller then of the Sol Blue Mustang. I think that was Michel Rodriguez, the Swedish driver. They kind of trip back. Oh, that's opportunistic from Huben, trying to wrong foot Geelhead as the yellow Ferrari possibly went a little bit too deep, but we have a change of lead. As the Aston Martin just didn't really do anything wrong, was just kind of wrong place, wrong time as far as Geelhead was concerned. As we're now catching the one of the blue Astons, that is either Adanovsky or Bessier.
It's Adanovsky, I think.
It's Adanovsky,
But yeah, that was really, I thought you saw Geelhead, as Rodriguez to go off track to make that lapping attempt. You see the three Ferraris with Hoyer at the front and Grigoletta in the middle and Urchin at the back, all slipstreaming each other down this back straight then as they thread between the GD3s. But you saw Geelhead just went that little bit wide. It's exactly what I talked about. He just went a little bit wide through Dunlop as we see Grigoletta under attack from Urchan as Urchan goes side by side. And they bump wheels on the exit of Daichi. Downhill towards Coca-Cola they go. And can Grigoletta hold on to that sixth position? So crucial not to lose ground. Given that he's in the lead of the championship. And Arda Urchan, who of course won in GD3 last season, has moved up to Hypercar for this season, is really proving his mettle fighting with a race winner in Hypercar here. So yeah, Arda Urchan really giving Grigoletta, the winner of this was a sprint race last season, not an endurance one last season, but nonetheless Grigoletta won it, but he's having a very, very hard time as we see there's just not enough space for GD3s and Hypercars through the Dunlop corner there. And Geelhead though has regrouped a little bit, is keeping Huben very, very honest in this particular stint, as I believe we're riding on board with our championship leader Kieran Prendergast, trying to keep Polesny inside and trying just to stay out of the way of all these Hypercars.
Yeah, this is our trio of Ferraris of being led by Hoyer. So Urchan is still challenging Grigoletto. And again, the tail of Grigoletto's car tried to let go there, but got that one just about under control in time. It's now a four-way train of Ferraris, as the yellow one is actually catching the back of that conga line. And with the GD3 traffic just kind of minding their own business, the Ferrari train is catching the back of the pair of Toyotas of Marocek and McConnell. As we now look at Bessier against the inside line of Schindler. This is a third, beg your pardon, in the GT3. So the Aston capitalising on the fact the Mustang was just wrong-footed. Crikey! The Peugeot coming right across, chopping the nose, just regaining the racing line there from the yellow Ferrari. So that could have gone horribly, horribly wrong, but well driven and fair play from Marin Bessier. And well observed as well by Patrick Schindler. Again, he could have closed the door with somebody in line and was, had the wherewithal to realise that the Aston was alongside his next target. is Thomas Linden for second, who's right on the tail of GT3 leader Luke Whitehead.
Yeah, so Whitehead under pressure once again. And just like in Imola, there's an Aston Martin catching up to the back of him. So Marin Bassi, who've been threatening to pass Schindler for quite a while in this race, the first half hour, of course, just having really been elapsed. But he wasn't really able to do it because he didn't quite have the straight line speed advantage. And it was that hypercar trap, that distraction into the first hairpin that opened the door for him. And you can actually see Schindler starting to really lose ground now. Potentially Sebastian Wunsch could fancy a go at him before too long as well. But our three leaders in GD3, all in different cars, none of them in the Mustang, interestingly. So I wonder if we've read this wrong, that the Mustang may be the favored car choice over the course of the season. But here at Mount Fuji, you really want to be in a Ferrari, a BMW, or an Aston Martin at the moment, because they're the ones flying. And speaking of flying, Triller and Hutrushki go side by side, and it's the Ferrari that slips his way through round the outside and has now got to defend into the first corner to complete that move. He's going to go side by side with Bessier, who really could do with a bit of a privacy here from the hypercars as he focuses on his task of getting into the top two there. But yeah, Nikolai Hutrushki nearly crashing into the back of Walter Triller, then Jules Neal in hot pursuit as well.
Oh my goodness, it's frantic, absolutely non-stop action, which we absolutely love. And we hope you lovely people watching along are enjoying this as much as we are. Oh!
It's a Triller!
The Triller's gone round, but Jules Neal had nowhere to go, actually had to reverse. I'm not sure what the stewards are going to think about that. The Triller did look like he wasn't moving, so I can understand why Jules Neal...
There must have been contact with, as we see now, Bessier trying to take advantage of that to attack Thomas Leiden. But that looked like Hutrushki and a Triller. Of course, we saw a Triller go around the outside. I think Hutrushki just sort of went, as we've seen it so many times, just a little dive at that turn 6 hairpin. And it all went spectacularly wrong for a Triller and Jules Neal there as Marin Basir slides the rear tyres through 13. He just looks really confident right now, doesn't he? Despite all the chaos going around them. Grigoletto sees his moment now and goes for the move into the top 5. Past Michi Hoyer. Hoyer gets off the throttle, interestingly. Doesn't fight that one too hard as they're all getting a lovely tow from the back of Jack McConnell, who's dropped seriously far off the back of Davin Rotchek. That will be concerning because the pit stops aren't too far away, and Jack McConnell looks like he's really trying to conserve virtual energy potential at this point.
Yeah, absolutely true. As we cut back to our GT3 lead battle, they're only a second behind Luke Whitehead, so he's not away.
And that's a Triller getting into the pit, so he got really badly damaged. The steering looked bent all the way through that lap to the pits after being barged by Hutrushki. So Hutrushki had not made too many friends in round 1. I think he's just made another enemy here.
Well, he also got introduced somewhat forcefully to Jules Neal with the Alpine slamming into the side of the Ferrari as another battle that still rages on. It's Kieran Prendergast on the back of Wojtek Pelesny for... we did wonder whether that was going to be the case. So we have our first retirement of the race. Then a Triller has parked the car. Too much damage to repair, even in the longer race. A great shame, or just frustration getting the better of him. You never want to see it. A flash of the lights there from Bessier. Don't think Thomas Leiden's doing anything wrong. So again, trying to distract the BMW. Not going his way. Remains in third for now.
I think he's just being patient and, more to the point, excited to be running this high up in the top split is Marin Bessier, which, of course, he's only already got that one contender win to his name. He didn't have I don't think he scored any points last time at Imola, did he? He had a bit of a tricky race. So it's really, really good to see him turning things around.
He was 8th, so only a few.
Yes. Rodriguez is around. Puts him at the back of the, near the back of the GT5. I think he's ahead of only Fingard, who's had a difficult race in that Porsche there. So wouldn't be surprised if Rodriguez made contact maybe with Cripps or Mitchell there. But we also saw actually Leiden had a very, very wonky exit from the final corner here. And that's going to open the door then for Marin Bessier, who all faints, dives to the inside into that first hairpin. That's extremely well judged from Marin Bessier. Controls the inside line there, prevents Leiden from diving back underneath. And that's Marin Bessier into second position. What a fantastic, ferocious fighting spirit shown from the Frenchman there. And Luke Whitehead may look a bit worried because it's that dark blue Aston Martin, not Andonovski, but this time Marin Bessier, that's now threatening his lead of this race, 1.5 seconds behind him.
That was a superb move from the Aston Martin. Went to the inside line, Thomas Leiden then committed to it. As he started to return to the racing line, Bessier was confident he could outbrake the BMW, and that's exactly what he did. Brilliantly driven from both of them. As we look towards the head of the hypercar field, you can see there it is, a Triller, the 83, or one of the 83 Ferraris, no longer in the race. As Gilhood was a little bit deep there coming into turn one, but does not lose out to Davin Rocek just yet. Nicholas Hauben then with 2 and a bit seconds to his credit, almost unilaterally similar amounts of virtual energy throughout the hypercar field. So everybody just, they've got their rhythm, but still maintaining very, very good pace, and in a lot of places, some great racing.
Yeah, Grigoletto, we saw him make that move on Hoyer not too long ago, and he's got 2% more virtual energy than Jack McConnell, who's really gotten into defensive mode here. He's got 3 Ferraris buzzing all over the back of him. Now Simoncic and Henrik Gamble have joined the party as well. So this is going to be a really, really interesting fight over 4th position. But from the point of view of Huben, Gilhood and Rocek, it's a 4-second gap behind, which is exactly what they want. So Jack McConnell sort of doing Rocek's job for him and creating a lovely gap that will prevent him from being undercut potentially, depending on who decides to blink first in this battle. As we're getting almost to the end of the first 40-minute mark. We've had, let's see, is that 33 minutes then elapsed? No, it's slightly longer, wouldn't it be? Because it was, 2 hours 40. So yeah, 33 minutes elapsed in this race almost. So yeah, the fuel tanks will start to drain near the end of this stint. As Grigoletto now, he's already up the inside of Jack McConnell. McConnell is not going to be able to do too much here as Grigoletto now switches to the outside and goes all the way around the outside at turn 1. There's the Porsche that's going to be desperately trying to get out of the way here. It's Grigoletto that's got the inside for Coca-Cola. McConnell has to lift off there, and Grigoletto once more, superb racecraft shown, just like we saw at Imola 2 weeks ago.
I would not want to be Luca Thingard in this pack whatsoever. That is a very uncomfortable position for that Porsche to be. Yeah, fair effort from Jack McConnell. Grigoletto tried to box the Toyota in behind Luca Thingard. Jack McConnell positioned his car perfectly well to prevent that. And fair and hard racing from the pair of them. This is for 5th in the hypercar class as they catch another one of the Mustangs. This conga line is 4th down to around 8th or 9th or so. So very close from this entire pack. But so far they are remaining where they are. But you know that if anybody makes a mistake, there's several people ready to pounce on it. That is, again, a very uncomfortable position for that black Mustang, which is going to be Michel Rodriguez, isn't it? The other 2 black ones are Prendergast and Schindler. They are further up the field than that. Now Jack McConnell's got to keep half an eye behind him. Mitchell Hoyer is there ready and waiting to do something about it. But, like you said, they are getting more towards the end of their stints. So are they going to run their energy tanks dry? It is pretty much what they did last time in Imola, just for the hour race. We'll see what they plan to do this time around, as Gilhoud was very, very close to Rocek looking at the timing tower.
Rocek's through because he was behind him.
I was, yes, beg your pardon, you're absolutely right. As that's Callum Cripps that is now the popular one in the in amongst the hypercar field. There is the Toyota of Davin Rocek that's worked his way past Sven Gilhoud, our pole sitter for this race. As that is Fabian Bola again trying to mind his own business. It's Gilhoud's from leading the race, now down into 3rd and about 4 seconds behind the leader. That's the sole McLaren that's Regan Mitchell that is now. All he can do is just hold his line, but it's still very, very unnerving when you, especially with that many of the faster class coming past you.
Yeah, Gilhead, having led the first part of the race from pole position, is now really starting to struggle. We see Chan and Simoncic trying to pick which side of Lucas Korsch to pass there, as we see the 83 Ferrari all over the curb in the background as well. Interestingly, Bessier has taken a whole second out of Whitehead in the last 5-10 minutes or so, and has dropped Leiden to the tune of 1.6 seconds. And Bessier is still absolutely flying right now. Luke Whitehead is thinking these first pit stops can't come soon enough because he's just desperate for a bit of relief there. But yeah, it's interesting that Huben was able to build that gap. So Rocek got through and not a moment too soon because he was just losing time behind Gilhead. And we see Grigoletto's taken almost a second out of Sven Gielhed already there. So the Dutchman being closed in by the Italian. And the way I'm seeing this at the moment, it's turning into a 2-horse race in Hypercar between Hubin and Marocchak.
Yeah, but we saw that how quickly, particularly post pit stop, that things change, as that is Jules Neal, the Alpine, into the pits, slightly out of sync to everybody else. So,
is there damage there maybe?
Well, that's why I'm wondering: has he stopped, or no? He hasn't stopped
we've lost
yet.
Luca Fingard, as we've just been reminded of broadcast direction. Fingard, who was having a tough race at the very back of the field already, has retired, and looks like Jules Neal has joined him. I wonder if those two retirements might be connected in some way. Perhaps the Alpine tried to lap Luca Fingard, and it went very, very wrong indeed for both parties.
GT3 lead then, Whitehead in the Ferrari, Bessier in the Aston Martin. The Englishman in the Italian car, the Frenchman in the English car. As much as Aston is English, with who's owned by, but coming past them as well, one of the hypercars. Now, what I will say, that was a wonderful display of how a slower class car in a multi-class race should behave, and that's what Lucas Korsch did. Remain predictable, held his line, let the hypercars, let the faster class figure it out for themselves. That was a perfect display of how you need to behave, and that's Whitehead's gone too deep. He's gone too deep into turn one, nearly impact between the Ferrari and the Aston. Oh my God, Davin Rocek banzais his way through the pair of GT3 leaders. He was confident that they knew what they were going to do.
Well, I think maybe he had to take that risk because he knows if he doesn't do that, Hubin's going to continue to escape up the road. So he's just below 4 seconds behind. So it was a risk there. But meanwhile, Bessier continuing to put pressure on Luke Whitehead. And this is another situation where Luke Whitehead proving his mettle here because he's not looking like he's panicking too much, but the more pressure that Bessier applies, it'll be interesting to see what Whitehead does in response to defend, especially with this whole other hypercar battle going on around and in between them in some cases as well. So they've got to be wary of that too, but they can't afford to lose too much time backing off there, as there we go, Bessier illustrates that as he goes wide just a little bit to let the Ferrari through, and the Ferraris, will they help the Ferrari esports driver? Just squeezing through, and there goes the 83 looking for a way. It splits Bessier and Whitehead once again. So as my old former commentator friend of mine on VMS, Bradley, always used to say, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away there, and I think Marin Bessier has very much discovered that. But of course he's still getting lots of slipstream because he's still close enough to the back of that Ferrari GT3 488 that he is sort of gaining back the time he lost in traffic there by the end of this straight then. So he's still in a position where he could attack either later around this lap or come the next lap. But now 40 minutes elapsed. Realistically, if they've all been saving, they've got about 10 minutes of fuel left in the tank, as all Prendergast gets a rather rude shove there from that Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. So Prendergast, the back of this particular train, Wojtek Pelesti just ahead. I think that's Wunsch that is directly ahead of him again. So a 3-car train for 5th position in the GT3s that we are currently looking at. They are only, less than 2 seconds behind another pair of cars of Leiden and Schindler. So they could, if the cars fall that way, that could become a 5-car train for 3rd. And there is our GT3 leaders again with still more of the... Oh, that's an opportunity for Bessier. That's not realistically going to work out for him. But again, he's just keeping the pressure on. Keep reminding Luke Whitehead he's there. And the hypercars, they've got no choice. They've got to let the GT3s do their own thing. This is not what the hypercars want. They don't want to be catching the slower class fighting. They just want to be able to get past them as quick as they can. However, they can't just shoulder barge their way past. They can't, smash their way through the slower cars. They are perfectly entitled to the track room as well. Oh, Bessier would not have realized that I think it was one of the Peugeots.
It was Citrusky.
It was the Lamborghini. Oh, and that's Sergio Hoyer for 6th position going into turn 1. And he's got the move done. So Michi Hoyer, that tiny bit too deep in the breaker zone of turn 1. And he's lost that position with Simičić right behind.
Yeah, Simičić's old sparring partner and former teammate, of course, at VMS Esports. As you see, Bessier continuing to just harass Whitehead at every corner of this lap. Goes a little bit wide through Daichi. Luckily for that 51 Ferrari, the back's right off, actually. Doesn't want any part of this at all. So maybe there's a bigger issue with that hypercar there because he was not taking any risks at all through Coca-Cola, and he's sort of saying, yeah, you guys decide who's going to lead, and then I can pick who I'm going to pass in what order. It's Paul Leclerc just taking it very, very easy indeed. We also got a comment from Luca Fingard who says, it wasn't a lapping incident. The BOP on the Porsche is a joke. I was losing 1.5 seconds a lap, and that's why I chose to retire. So clearly, I think Neil had damage from the other incidents. Oh, it's a dummy being sold on Luke Whitehead. Big dive from Marin Basir. Can he get that car turned in? No. The Ferrari ducks back in, but that was a valiant attempt then from Marin Basir. And Thomas Lydon is watching this and thinking, keep fighting, because it's dragging my BMW back into this one. And Schindler and Wunsch aren't too far behind either. So we're looking at a five-way fight for the GT3 lead. Absolutely fantastic action here. And Marin Basir, he will know the pit stops are coming soon. This is a do-or-die situation for him.
Great effort from both Bessier and Whitehead. Then Luke knew exactly where to position his car to regain the lead. He didn't lose his head, didn't floor it. We're already under the 2-hour mark. This race is flying by. Absolutely wonderful stuff. As we look at the tower for the GT3s, yep, there is Linden in the BMW within, certainly within breathing range of the top two.
Bessier, just thinking about a move, but decides to back out at the last minute there. So, yeah, he's driving with a lot of confidence, but the problem is when these pit stops happen, he doesn't know what Luke Whitehead's going to do. Will Whitehead double stint the tyres? Will he put on fresh ones? And is Bessier going to be in a position where it's like, right, I have to double stint these tyres so I can get track position and then change them later on? Or there's so many unknowns here. And how much, how much fuel they're going to put in? I presume they're going to put in the max fuel they can get away with, essentially, so that they can make it to the next stint without running short at the end, essentially. So Bessier might also have been saving a little bit of fuel in that first stint, and now he's trying to burn it off as he positions himself to the outside for Dunlop again. Chris, he's looking, this time, he's trying to just put Whitehead offline here on entry.
Yeah, good luck with that. Luke Whitehead is a very, very experienced hand. We've got a yellow flag out there somewhere, or briefly we did. It has now been retrieved. But yeah, you could just see Bessier, he's got the pace advantage. But Luke Whitehead, brilliant defensive driving, and now the BMW is getting involved. So it's Italy versus Britain versus Germany as far as the marks are concerned, and that's a move on the inside for Lydon. Could not quite get alongside the Aston. Aston's getting very, very squiggly behind the Ferrari. So again, I think Bessier has probably burnt the best out of these tyres. He wants to get to his pit stop, but he knows what lap he's aiming for, and he's been staring at the back of that Ferrari for quite a while now. He could probably draw it by memory. And again, Luke Whitehead just positions his car perfectly well, bang in the middle of the circuit. Make up your mind, Aston. Which way are you going to go? He's looking to the inside line. He's committing to it. He's made it work before. Can Bessier take the race lead by doing it again? He's forced Whitehead's wide, but not unduly so, and that is a lead change for the GT3 contingent. Bessier takes the lead.
Wow, he was threatening to do that for a long, long time, and Whitehead was trying to back him into Lydon, wasn't he? It didn't quite work out, unfortunately, because he slowed down so much to the point that he was just a bit vulnerable. The door was open on the inside. He tried to control the middle of the road, but unfortunately, Bessier found the space that he needed to make it through. So it was a good move, an aggressive move, but as you say, a clean one. And now Whitehead has a BMW-shaped problem coasting up to the back of him as well. So Whitehead surely now is in a position where he's got to try something strategically to retake track position at the pit stop. Bessier is going to try and check out and build as big a lead he can before that fuel tank runs out. Meanwhile, I wonder what's going on in our hypercars as we cut back to Simicic, who is trying to catch Hoyer while holding off Henri Gamble. So he's in a Ferrari sandwich, as indeed pretty much any car that's not a Ferrari finds itself in a Ferrari sandwich side of them in this race.
Yeah, we've got a few more percent discrepancies this time. Hubin is at a bit of a disadvantage, only a couple of percent from his immediate chases. Grigoletto, he's done it again, isn't he? He made the strategy pay off for him perfectly well last time out in Imola, and again, he has got the percentage advantage as far as the combined virtual energy and fuel tank percentage is concerned. Now, yes, there are still discrepancies in that number, but either way, it is still showing advantage Italy in the number 50, or his number 50 Ferrari. We're working the way through the field. Oh, crikey, one of the Mustangs being very popular again, and Simicic Oh, that could have gone horribly wrong between himself and Mitty Hoyer, but he does manage to avoid having his nose chopped off. Gamble is there, ready to take advantage if it does all go wrong. They remain where they are, 7th, 8th and 9th so far.
Yeah, this is sort of not where I think Hoyer and Simoncic would have expected to be at the start of this race, of course, as well. So it means they've got a lot of work to do. They want to sneak their way, even just into the top 5 here, might be quite the challenge. But at the moment, Simoncic getting the toe from Hoyer is preventing Henri Gamble from attacking him into that first hairpin there. So this is sort of not too unideal a position. I think Simoncic would prefer to be the car ahead then as we cut back to what's now the second place battle. Marin Basile 1.4 seconds ahead. That Aston just continues to fly around Fuji Speedway, doesn't it? And Luke Whitehead now, once more, just like we saw in Imola, this time with no damage, but just doesn't have the pace of the Aston, is in a position where he's just got to get defensive to keep a train of Mustangs and a BMW behind for good measure there, because every car down to, I think, Prendergast in 7th is within a couple of seconds of him now.
Yeah, Bessier now is just running off into the distance. Luke Whitehead, oh my God, yeah, he's been practicing his defensive driving all right. The strategy went against him last time out, led for, like we said before, first half of Imola, and Ferrari didn't quite come his way. Oh, wow, look at that, 2 cars going out to that inside line at the same time. That could have gone horribly wrong, and that's nearly impact between the BMW and the Ferrari. But Prendergast is now starting to put pressure on Wunsch. So Prendergast, as he did before, has just been biding his time, just keeping there or thereabouts. Although I'm sure he would prefer to be a little bit further up the order than 6th. Now trying to put pressure on Sebastian Wunsch to get himself into the top 5. And it's next one of the yellow Mustangs of Wojtek Pelesny.
He's cleared Pelesny as Prendergast, so he is starting to put the pressure on. And remember, Prendergast and Wunsch fought for the title pretty much for all of last season as well. So him and Wunsch are pretty implacable rivals, aren't they? That they just never seem to lose the back of each other. As we see Whitehead all just so slow through the hairpin, you can tell the Ferrari's relying on that sort of top-end straight line speed to save it, essentially. From being overtaken, but he's so sort of vulnerable that it allows him to get so close through the final sector essentially and set themselves up for a move. So Leiden is going to start to get impatient here because he can see Marin Basile disappearing into the distance and he wants to remain a factor in this race. The other interesting thing that's happening is Marocek has not really been catching the back of Huben. He's actually fallen back and he's just been overtaken by Sven Gielhed there. So I think Marocek losing out in the traffic. You can just see them in the background. There's Gielhed in that 83 who's just nipped through as they were stuck behind. I think it was Patrick Schindler. Marocek now right in the wheel tracks, nips to the outside, but he's not going to be close enough unless he decides to switch to the inside at the last minute, which Sven Gielhed is very much covered off.
It's just absolutely relentless action here. Absolutely superb stuff. Oh, is that Whitehead that's lost second? Thomas Line just made the movement. Whitehead gets the exit out of turn 1, but he's going to the outside line.
The outside.
But he's got it done. The BMW slots in behind Luke Whitehead. So yeah, Luke is really struggling in this stage of the race. Has he been the best out of those tyres, I wonder, in the Ferrari? Either way, that early pace is fading away from him. Bessier now nearly 3 seconds down the road. Whoa, come in, number 51, your time is up. Is nearly an empty tank for Nicholas Huben. We know it's a draconian penalty if you run that virtual energy tank to empty. So surely it's going to be this time when he comes in.
Yeah, we're nearly at the 50-minute mark exactly, but to be fair, if you're going to run an aggressive strategy, building a 6-second lead to the next car while Gielhed and Marocek fight each other, this has worked out incredibly well for Huben then. But this has got to be a clean stop here as we see Leiden again very, very close to the back, almost as close as that looked like Simoncic and Hoyer just squeezing through as well, giving Leiden a little bit of contact as Henri Gamble now goes around the outside of Patrick Schindler as well, just about makes it through. But our hypercars are surely all starting to think about heading for pit lane, if not this lap, then the next one around. Huben is the first to blink, and that allows Gielhed to take the lead. He's going the extra lap, but Marocek is following the race leader in from third.
Yeah, pit lane's going to get very busy over the next few laps as in goes Bessier from the lead of the GT3s. I thought there might be another lap or two in the GT3 tank. Was he a little bit lighter in fuel, I wonder, than those around him? We will see.
Oh, Seb Bunch.
Yeah, that's Wunsch that is defending from Schindler.
He just passed him.
Just beg your pardon, yeah, just past him. So that is Schindler down into fourth. Whitehead back into the lead of the GT3s, but no breathing space whatsoever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, all for GT3 honours at the moment. But yeah, so an early pit stop for Bessier. Hopefully that's not going to come with a price tag at the end of the race.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He will, of course, get a bit of an undercut here, which is certainly going to help him in terms of track position. But as you say, if he's using a little bit more fuel, not able to stretch the fuel tank longer, that's going to have a knock-on effect at the next two stints as well. As we look at now, Geelhead having re-inherited the lead from Grigoletto about 3 seconds behind. So Grigoletto, we know, had the most fair challenger. He might be able to go another lap longer. I think Geelhead is heading for the pit lane. Those we see there is Morocek and Huben, crucially. And it looks like Huben has changed tyres, whereas Morocek is double stinting. He's come out ahead, and that should be the net lead of the race for Davin Morocek, depending on what happens ahead of them.
In comes Geelhead then. So our pole sitter for the LM class is now in. Grigoletto has chosen to continue. More cars heading to the pit
penalty
lane.
for Jack McConnell.
Oh dear. That's
So
going to be
in the pit lane, clearly.
Oh dear, the Peugeot not
It's,
going.
Toyota, isn't it, McConnell? McConnell's in the Toyota, isn't he?
I thought it was Peugeot for McConnell.
No, the Peugeots
Oh, it's
are
Toyota? No, excuse me.
Macaulay and Simichich, who are both pitting at the moment, interestingly as well, yeah.
See, I'm doing it again. McConnell and Macaulay.
Joe and Jack. Yep.
That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. As new GT3 leader then, Sebastian Wunsch. So it's a yellow Mustang 1-2 at the moment, with Pelesny a few car lengths behind. Remy Delorme will be liking the fact that he is up to third at the moment, I'm sure, in the Aston Martin. Oh, hello. That's a lively black Mustang actually being lapped. So that's Michel Rodriguez. That now he does have to release that position. We always say that the slower cars must not jump out of the way of the faster class in multi-class racing. However, if you are being lapped by your own class, you must relinquish that position. You must make it very clear you are getting out of the way. More pit stops being concluded then. How is this going to shake up the hypercar class? There is Sven Geelhead. Dan Rocek, as we know, with that shorter stop, is going to come through ahead of the red Ferrari. Huben's already through. There he is. So from formerly in the race lead, Geelhead comes out in essentially third.
Of course, and our leaders are pitting. They can't stretch the challenge any further then in hypercar then. So Grigoletto, Chan and Hoyer all coming in. I think Hutrishki and Lepere will have to do the same as well. In fact, in they come, and there is Paul Lepere then, who has had a tricky start to this race. We saw him just really backing off. Unless he's actually saved enough for another lap, which I don't think he has. Yeah, he's just genuinely struggling then. And it looks like even our front runners, that looks like two of our Mustangs, the yellow ones of Wunsch and Pelesny, having to come in because they cannot stretch the fuel any further than 55 minutes, it seems. So that's the hard limit of the fuel tanks of these cars then.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the remainder of the field all coming in then. As that was Adanovsky that we just saw coming through camera shot. There's Davin Rocek. We know he's already been through. So that's going to give overall race lead to, as we imagine, Davin Rocek. I can't imagine the GT3s are going to pit that quick, or the remainder of the hypercars are going to pit fast enough.
Rigoletto's been released. Look, he's coming down pit lane. It could be close with Morocek here, so maybe they both decide to double stint the tyres, but Morocek is through. Now, we wait to see where is Huben then. Huben has got through as well by, just about there as well. So, yeah, Nicolas Huben is able to hold on to second position as we now see Geelhead very, very close. Grigoletto goes wide, and that attempt to undercut Sven Geelhead did not work for Fabio Grigoletto. He has come up behind, but he's got more fuel and, more importantly, fresher tyres. So the battle for third is still absolutely on.
Yeah, very, very much so. Battle for third at the moment. We will see how these strategies unfurl as the race continues, as Miriam Bassier remains in GT3 lead then. As we see his Aston Martin back out on the road. Look at this, how many people are funneling their way back out.
There's Whitehead. He should be coming up in the background.
There he is.
This Leiden is ahead of Whitehead, interestingly. There we go.
Yeah.
And Whitehead, just about cleared the, that must be Pelesny there. It's now side by side. between Wunsch and Leiden. Leiden, of course, has had more time to warm up those tyres. He's going to go around the outside of Coca-Cola, and Wunsch has to back out there. That was very, very sensible indeed. Schindler tucks ahead just in front of Polesny, and I think that's Prendergast fancying go around the outside at 100. Oh, that's bold, that's brave for the reigning champion. Polesny just loses the rears, and Prendergast tucks back into 6th, so he's exactly where he was before the pit stops.
Oh, someone's had their bravery pill this morning. That is a great move from Prendergast, especially with the fact that... yeah. Especially as the fact that the yellow Mustang started to let go as Whitehead is putting pressure on Fuchs, now down into 4th position. This is kind of what happened last time with Whitehead. Starting from pole, started very, very well, and yet the pit stops, just the pace just ebbs away from the Ferrari. Either way, though, still knocking on the door of the top 3. That's not completely running out of
it looks like Leiden and Wunsch may well have double stinted the tyres. So I think Whitehead has put new ones on. Be interesting.
Bessier is 16 seconds ahead.
Yeah, well, of course, he did pit quite a few laps ahead, and he may have double stinted as well. So that's the only explanation I can think of for why the gap is so big. But nonetheless, that is pretty extraordinary. He had like 2 or 3 laps undercut, didn't he?
Well, that you would then imagine that he's going to bite him towards the tail end of
unless
the race.
He's underfueled it. That's the other thing that could have happened here.
Surely so. So, that's going to be a very long final stint then for Bessier. Well, we will see. I mean, he certainly showed that he's got the pace to really build a gap. And gambling on the weather, as production is saying. That's a bold statement. If that is where Bessier is going. And I'm not sure he needed to make that gamble. He had the pace there. So, well, he's committed to it now. So we'll see if that's going to pay off for him as we look at Yanni Simoncic in the Peugeot, fending off the advances of Henri Gamble in the yellow Ferrari. This is for 7th position with then, I think that's another one of the Peugeots.
It's Macaulay.
Yeah, beg your pardon. Yeah, so it's Simoncic is the only Peugeot. And Gamble trying to get alongside the 94 Peugeot. Runs Simoncic a little bit too wide. Bit of a hip check between the two. And that is 7th. I would imagine Yanni Simoncic may feel a little bit aggrieved by that. I mean, the impact wasn't particularly severe, but it was enough to wrong foot Simoncic, and that is 7th to Gamble.
Yeah, it looked to me like Yerne just had a bit of an issue as we see yellow flag on track. Oh, Polesny, I think, has gone off there, has he? It's Seb Wunsch, sorry. Wunsch drops to 8th behind Remy Delorme then, so he's had a big spin somewhere and dropped well out of the top 5 there. So that is really, really bad news for the German that finished just off the podium last time out. And it was looking good, the challenge from the podium again. And that's given Schindler big breathing space and has allowed Prendergast to move up to 5th.
Wow. Absolutely great stuff. And again, Prendergast just doing when he's just in the right place at the right time. It all paid off for him pretty well. And he's only, second behind Whitehead, which would put him into, 3rd position. And suddenly, Bessier's lead has come down by 3 seconds. So what is going on with that lead Aston at the moment? So has he had his own, well, again, assuming he's had his own instant, he's on his own as far as his classmates are concerned. But that lead, which was over 16 seconds only a lap or so ago, is dramatically coming down.
Yeah, Leiden's actually starting to drop Whitehead as well. So I think both of them did change tyres indeed. It's just Leiden got out of the pits quicker. But yeah, it has Mourin Bessier, he's either underfueled or realised because he pit so early, he is in danger of having to do an extra stop compared to everyone else. And so maybe he's adjusting his pace to try and save fuel accordingly. So he's got a massive undercut, got that massive track position, but now he's starting to feel the pain of that he's sort of in between a rock and a hard place in that case, because Leiden is just going to absolutely take chunks out of him in this stint.
And that's exactly what the BMW is doing. He is on an absolute charge. Now, Whitehead in 3rd, Schindler 4th, Prendergast in 5th, sizing up his fellow Mustang as they come out of the final turn. Not close enough, not unless he makes an absolute banzai into turn 1. Well, I'm very curious to know what Bessier is thinking, but all will become clear as we are already past the hour mark already. That has absolutely flown by And if the weather is going to have a part to play in it, we've got a lot of action. Oh my God, a lot of action coming up as Macaulay nearly tags up with the McLaren of Regan Mitchell. That could have got very
Liskowitz. It was Liskowitz, actually, who's going side by side with one of the Mustangs.
Beg your pardon, you're right. Regan Mitchell was the car ahead of that particular duo. It was indeed Liskowitz in the Corvette.
It's Rodriguez on the outside there, and Liskowitz always made the move in that Corvette. So good to see our sole Corvette making progress here, closer and closer to the top 10. And Regan Mitchell is going to become part of this battle for too long as well, I fear.
Well, yes, indeed. As if they continue the pace that they're going, Regan Mitchell can't just concentrate on the road ahead. He has got these American headlights bearing him down. We'll see how he handles that when it happens. I wasn't looking at another retirement. That's McConnell that is out. Jack McConnell in the Toyota has parked it. We didn't see what led to that, but that is the Alpine.
Some comments actually from Jack McConnell. We know he got that penalty for speeding the pit lane. He says, I hit my pit limiter twice going into the pits and turned it off. So frustrating. It's so easy to do even for a top level driver. Just have one little thing where under pressure you tap the button a little bit too quickly and it can destroy your entire race. And McConnell, who was in the top 4 early doors, was looking good to maybe challenge for 5th or 6th after being overtaken by Grigoletto. That's a huge shame for him because he didn't score at Imola, lost the rear wing in a collision, and now he's had to retire early doors from this. And retiring from the endurance race puts you at a big disadvantage in the overall championship because there's so many more points for finishing in the top 10 here. So you've got to feel a bit for Jack McConnell. But meanwhile, Regan Mitchell now sees Liskowitz already attacking him. Liskowitz is all of a sudden just on a massive charge here as we see the black and orange car versus the black and yellow one, and the Hypercar streaming through either side. They go 3 wide. Liskowitz has got the inside here. He's got the move done before the braking zone there. So Regan Mitchell, the McLaren, clearly not the car of choice at the moment, and the Corvette is slightly better down the straights there.
Yeah, Regan Mitchell didn't score any points last time out, and Liskowitz, I don't think Liskowitz did either. No, indeed. Is Liskowitz even listed? Unless I'm being blind. Don't think we saw Liskowitz last time out. It wasn't.
That's correct.
Yes, that's right. But that is how our standings currently look. Marine Bessier down to 8 seconds ahead, so he is really falling into the clutches of Thomas Ledden, who in turn is absolutely flying. Look at the gap between himself and former GT3 leader Luke Whitehead, who's got Patrick Schindler and Kieran Prendergast in very short order, 4th and 5th. Wojciech Polesny 6th, Remy Delorme 7th, Sebastian Wunsch following a spin down an 8th. Timothy Adamowski starting at the back of the GT3 field up to 9th, and Fabian Borla rounding out the top 10 GT3s. Mark Viertz in the second Aston in 11th. Liskowitz seemingly finding a new turn of pace in the Corvette in 12th. Regan Mitchell demoted just now to 13th in the McLaren, with Michelle Rodriguez 14th. Callum Cripps, the sole surviving Porsche in 16th, and Lucas Korsch, the last running GT3, we having lost Luca Thingard earlier in the race.
Right, there we go then. So it's still a knife edge, isn't it, between our 2 GT3 leaders? Here is the Hypercar standings then. After 42 laps, the first hour of the race completed. Davin Rocek leads Niklas Huben by 3 seconds. So Huben has been slowly starting to catch Marocek. So Marocek took a bit of a gamble, I think double stinted the tyres at the first stop to try and gain track position over Huben. Gielhead is holding on to 3rd at the present moment. So remember, Marocek had just been overtaken by Gielhead before the stop, so it was definitely worth the Toyota driver making that gamble. Marocek, with just 1 win to his name, looking for his 2nd win in the VMS Platinum Split. Fabio Grigoletto is in 4th, a couple of seconds behind Gielhead, and he has got a big gap behind to Arda Erchan, so that really shows you how much progress Grigoletto, who was in the middle of this pack earlier on, has made. Michi Hoyer is in 6th, just in front of Henrik Gamble, and Jerne Simoncic down in 8th at the moment. This is not a good day for our 2 Peugeot 9X8s with Simoncic and Macaulay just about staying in the top 10. Marco Buono, there's a big gap to him though. He rounds out the top 10, which will be the final points paying position.
Absolutely so. And still, the clouds look very ominous, don't they? Yeah, just proving very, very dark at the moment. I mean, Bessier would love it to rain right now because that lead he built early on with his short stint is evaporating very, very quickly. So he is hoping that the heavens open very, very soon. To ride on board with, not 100% sure who we're riding on board with. Oh, it is Bessier. So you can actually see, just look how many steering inputs he's having to do. Is that rain on his windscreen, or is that a very impressive fly collection that he's got on there?
That's rain. That to me looks like various insects that he's collected around Fuji Speedway. It is looking a bit more overcast than before. Everybody seems to be turning the lights on. You can see the Mount Fuji in the background looking a bit overcast. So there's clearly some rain showers in the distance, but none of them have hit the track yet. We are getting closer to the final hour. We'll have to see if it changes then. But Bessier, who didn't change tyres at the pit stop, you can tell he is just having to hold on in this stint. But if he can hold on, then it might come back to him at the second phase of pit stops, because of course he will change tyres, whereas the rest of the field will have to make up their mind. Do they change tyres as well, or do they, because if Bessier is still just about holding on to the lead, then there's that question of who's got track position going into the final stint as well. Generally, by the way, good way to tell if it's raining is whether the windscreen wipers are moving, not whether there's a couple of droplets on the screen or not.
Fair play, well observed, as one of the LMP, one of the hypercars comes past.
Gilhead's starting to be caught by Grigoletto as well, speaking of hypercars, so let's keep our eyes on that battle too, because as I said, Grigoletto, our championship leader, really flying at the moment, and if he can finish on the podium here, that would be a great way to just about hold on to his championship lead, because at the moment it's sort of turning into a fight between him and Marocek, of course, who finished 4th at Imola, so they'd be very, very close in the points at the present moment, because they basically have a 1st and a 4th to both their names, but of course it's the endurance race that pays the bigger points. So Marocek looking good at the moment, because Hubin is not quite catching him quickly enough. So yeah, Marocek's gamble is paying out so far. Bessier, though, it's looking a little bit more on tenterhooks.
Yeah, and bearing in mind, SimGrid, second in the championship of the hypercars, is down in 8th position now. So we are going to see, or at the moment, we are looking to see a very big shakeup in, well, in fairness, we're looking potentially at a shakeup in both of our grids. Bessier was, as I say, not a point scorer last time out. So is looking, if you're going to win, if you're going to make a statement of intent, winning an endurance race will most certainly do it. As Joe McCauley trying to get alongside his fellow Peugeot runner of Yelena Simoncic to challenge for 8th position at the moment. Where is McCauley in the list? Again, non-point scorer from last time out, so we'll most certainly be looking to do something about that at the moment. But again, if we are... Oh, he did get a jump start last time. Thank you for production for reminding me of that. But also bear in mind, if we have got rain that is coming, again, we don't know what the weather is doing, by the way. We have no idea if any rain is due. However, if it is, then that could well completely change the whole face of the race. Some people may well have been set up a little bit more for the slippery conditions, as Bessier tries to leave a part of the underside of his car behind at turn 3. But yeah, you'd have definitely felt that in a GT3 car.
Yeah, just absolutely riding the curbs at Coca-Cola at turn 3, isn't he? But Leiden can just see lap by lap by lap, he's getting closer and closer. Hubin has taken about 7/10 out of Marocek as well. So it is Niklaus Hubin, who was so strong in that first stint. He built up a 6-second lead on those fresher tyres. Marocek is really starting to struggle. Bessier really has just been struggling, not necessarily on tyres. I think it's definitely fuel that he's trying to conserve at this point, and Leiden is very, very aware of that. There is that trap, that little temptation as well, to use up a little too much fuel chasing him down, knowing that you have the advantage. I think Leiden, though, the BMW, as I said pre-race, is one of the better cars on fuel consumption as well. So I think Thomas Leiden can sort of afford to push at the moment without worrying about running short before the next pit stop, particularly as he's now starting to hold up the 51 just behind him. I think that might be Arda Ercan trying to chase down Grigoletto. Nope, it's Farinelli.
It's a fair guess, to be honest, considering how many of them are out there.
There's at least 4 or 5 51s. So.
Less than 2 seconds separate our GT3. No, well, yes, less than 3 seconds does separate our GT3 leaders. Also bearing in mind that whilst Leiden is chasing down Marin Bessier. Luke Whitehead still has a pair of Mustangs staring into his soul of Patrick Schindler and Kieran Prendergast. So that battle hasn't dissipated, settled down for the time being, but is still very, very poised to erupt as Simoncic still fends off the advance of Joe McCauley, as that is that
Lucas Korsche just lapping.
Korsch, yes, beg your pardon. Who again just kind of minding his own business and staying very much out of harm's way. As we see the field then working their way through the tail end of the GT3s. Oh, Callum Cripps, you're going to be real popular real quick. Regan Mitchell already is very popular at the moment. And again, we haven't seen, I'm not saying there hasn't been, but we haven't seen an awful lot of tangling between the LMPs and, sorry, the Hypercars and the GT3s. Although that was a really opportunistic move there from Simoncic just to box McCauley behind Callum Cripps there, just to give him those couple of tenths of breathing space. Don't think it's going to last particularly long though, as Joe McCauley is already reading in his fellow Peugeot.
Yeah, and look at our two lead battles. Marocek within 1.3 seconds of Huben, but Leiden, as you say, has been catching Bessier by about over half a second a lap. So within the next couple of laps, Bessier is going to be in trouble here. And how far into this stint are we? About nearly 20 minutes or so. So yeah, a whole second quicker the last lap around then. Leiden is putting the pressure on, and you've got to wonder, Bessier has put himself in a position where he's going to lose track position, and Thomas Leiden could maybe even afford, if he pulls a big enough gap after passing him with the pace he's got, could probably afford to change tyres and still come out ahead of Marin Bessier, no matter what. So this gamble to get the massive undercut and all that pace we showed in the first stint, it's coming back to bite Marin at this point. So the Frenchman is just in a position where he might even be fighting to just hold on to the podium rather than the race win in the next couple of laps as well. So it is starting to change around on him. But Huben, meanwhile, has also been catching Marocek and is nearly a second behind him as well. So it's difficult to know where to look, really, as we also see McCauley starting to harass the back of Simoncic, and why not? Jene Simoncic, four-time Formula Sim Racing champion, a man with huge pedigree, and McCauley, as he goes very, very wide, just got sort of tricked into understeering off track there at Coca-Cola there. But yeah, Joe McCauley, of course, is a multiple race winner in SRO Esports on ACC, Assetto Corsa, so he's starting to make his name in Le Mans Ultimate as well, and good to see. That's the whole point of the Platinum Split. All of our top drivers from all avenues of sim racing coming together for a big prize pot that they all want a piece of. And now Leiden is well and truly upon the back of Marin Bessier, who struggles to hold on to the rear tyres of that Aston Martin. This is really, really tricky, and Bessier knows he's just going to have to pit early. And, oh, no, actually, that was him. Okay, that was him getting very, very defensive. You can't really afford to cut across the pit entry line if you're not coming into the pits there. That's sort of a little bit of a no-no. So, yeah, he could be in trouble for that one, for the race direction afterwards. But hopefully, Bessier is just about within the rules, because I think it's when you cut out, you go from the racing line suddenly into the pits. That's the one that the race stewards are a bit more upset about. But yeah, the gap, only 2 temps now, and Leiden is well and truly gearing up for an attack here.
I'm actually really surprised that Bessier is defending that hard, with considering the pace difference between himself and the BMW. Surely it's just going to be better for Bessier just to let. The Aston nearly loses his nose, and Thomas Leiden is not going to give Marin Bessier the opportunity to hold him up alongside. But has the Aston got any tyres left? Amazingly, it does, and gets the hammer down. It's going to make the BMW go the long way around. Got nothing left though. He had to break so much earlier than Thomas Leiden, so the BMW has taken the lead. I'm surprised Bessier actually put up a fight there. I would have thought it would have been a little bit more beneficial just to let the BMW go. In the end, it made little difference, and through into the lead of the GT3s goes Thomas Leiden. There is Marocek and Niklas Hauben, less than a second between the pair of them, so and they've got plenty left in the tank. Although in saying that, Grigoletto, he's doing it again. Look, he's just keeping that few more percent in the tank. That really paid off for him well in Imola. So is Erchan as well, so don't discount him. Although he's a little bit further back than Grigoletto is. So could well be all changed at the top by the time the checkered flag falls.
Yeah, Grigoletto now starting to use some of that virtual energy. So clearly he wants to get a bit closer to the back of Geelhead. I think Erchan was about 8 or 9 seconds behind them as well. So yeah, there you go, 8.7 seconds exactly. Well remembered, Edward. Thank you, Edward. But there it goes, up to 9 seconds now. But yeah, I think Erchan was sort of saving a bit because he was sort of in no man's land. If a big gap ahead to Grigoletto and a decent gap behind to, I think it was Michi Hoyer, if memory serves correctly, who was just behind Erchan. But yeah, for Thomas Lydon, that Ferrari was up the inside at 6, and I think Bessier, wanted to defend that one a bit more as Macaulay gets very, very held up by Luke Whitehead there at that turn 6 hairpin. That's why it's such a sort of pinch point, isn't it? Because you saw with the GT3s, they always want to sort of fight each other, but they have to sort of let the hypercars up the inside, and then that leaves the space for their rivals in turn to dive up the inside of them. So it's such a tricky corner when you're the one in front, especially in the GT3s, as we now see Prendergast, Schindler and Whitehead all bunching up. This is ideal for Prendergast, who for the second race in a row wants to put one over on our pole sitter Luke Whitehead. But yeah, the more Whitehead holds this pack up, the more they're just going to struggle to overtake Bessier before the pit stop. So they're sort of racing against the fuel tank here at this phase. As we see Hubin, by the way, wins 7/10 of Davin Marocek. Marocek will surely have to get defensive on those older tyres here.
Well, I think we're about to find out. There we just saw also Geelhead that is not far off the back of these two. So if Marocek and Albon in the Toyota and Ferrari respectively start to fight very hard, which I imagine they will, then Geelhead, our pole sitter, will be right there to join in the fight for the podium. And Grigoletto, our championship leader, race winner from Imola, he's not far behind either. So he's only 3 seconds back. So, yeah, we are very much game on. A wonderful four-way bite for the top honours in the race. And still, Bessier he's got 1.2 seconds between himself and his chasers at the moment. We'll see how that all unfolds, as it was possibly a bit early on the brakes for Schindler. The Mustang looking a bit uncomfortable coming out of turn 3. And still, Bessier, whatever gamble he's gone for doesn't seem to be paying off, but still an hour and 20 to go as we are getting to the halfway stage of this race. So, we're an hour and 20 minutes into racing, and the top 5 of our GT3 separated by less than 5 seconds.
Yeah, so they're sort of half an hour in to their second stints, aren't they, for most of them, depending, of course, on when they pit. Some of them went a couple of 5 minutes, 7 minutes longer, didn't they? On the fuel tank, as we see yellow flags out on track, somebody near the back of the field, I think, as a hit troubled there. It's Mark Veit, I think, that's had a little moment. No, okay. There was just a Fabian Ballet being lapped by the Ferrari just ahead of him. But yeah, whatever the yellow flag was, it's cleared now. And yeah, Hubin is just sort of, it's almost like a shark circling its prey, isn't it? You can tell Hubin has got the advantage here, but of course, as you say, Geelhead within touching distance. Grigoletto starting to capture Geelhead as well within 3 seconds. So it is still a four-way fight, and up the inside. Oh, Luke Whitehead did not need to be asked twice. Sweet revenge on Marin Bessier, who seemed to put an amazing move on him earlier. Luke Whitehead has made a move out of nowhere, or I say out of nowhere, on the fresher tyres, of course, to get second on the road. And it's so crucial now that Whitehead clears, because those two Mustangs, he desperately needs Marin Bessier to hold them up in this stint so that he can take advantage, as we see Hutrushki and Farinelli having their own private duel just outside the points for 11th position, and Hutrushki seems very, very keen to get through pronto.
Yeah, very, very true. Whilst they may well be arguing for lower honours, they are still fighting with everything they've got as the Lamborghini closes right in on the Ferrari. Right behind them is that battle for second in GT3s. Bessier just had no defence whatsoever. It was a little bit deep going into turn 1, and again the tail of the Aston tries to let go, but Marin Bessier has that one under control. But all the time he's fighting his car, and again a big tail wag on the exit of nets is just forcing him further and further away from GT3 lead. You can just see by the body language of the car, he is just struggling now, as here comes Schindler and Prendergast to make his day even worse. riding on board with the GT3 Championship leader as he looks at Schindler, sizing up a move, goes to the inside line. Bessier doesn't even try and close that door. He knows he's got nothing to defend with. And again, you can see how quickly Prendergast closes in on the Aston Martin. It shows how much earlier the Aston has to brake. You can flash, Kieran. He's not actually a lap down. So, but that was a bit deep there from Schindler. So doing that is not going to help your cause. It's going to keep Marine Bessier in contention to try his best to defend that podium spot. I think that is a losing battle for the Frenchman.
Look at Hoopen, by the way, Chris. Very, very close to the back of Davin Rocek. This is the opportunity he's been waiting for. Then needs to make the move sooner rather than later if he wants to sort of retake control of this race. But if Hoopen can't get through, then he's going to be backed into Geelhead and Grigoletto, who you can just see in the background is starting to get involved in this battle too. So it's Toyota versus 51 Ferrari versus the yellow 83 Ferrari versus the number 50 Ferrari. So it's Morocek with a string of very, very determined Ferraris, all keen to get through here, and all of them have got a distinct advantage in terms of tyre life at this phase of the race. So Morocek has made it work so far. We saw him put in so many really, really brilliant performances in his Lamborghini last season, not least at the sprint race in Interlagos. He won by, 33 thousandths of a second over Simoncic over the line, despite Yerne nearly blowing up the engine, putting the fuel mix on full blast to try and steal that particular win. Didn't quite work out for him, but it was a fantastic fight that went all the way down to the very end of the race. And now we see Prendergast. Look, it's so crucial that he gets by Bessier right now, flashing his lights again to let him know that he's there, because otherwise Schindler will just disappear into the distance. And yeah, there we go. Marin Bessier down to 5th position, which would still be a strong result for the Frenchman, but it's not quite the lead that I think he was hoping for. And now Seb Wunsch, 2 seconds in arrears, senses blood in the water as that Aston Martin continues to struggle on tyres that are degrading like chewing gum at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to be wishing the time to his next pit stop to arrive as quickly as he possibly can. Morocek still with Hoopen in hot pursuit, with Geelhead not far behind either. Grigoletto, there he is at the back of the shot with Fabian Paula and one of the Astons also tangled up in that mixture. So again, very, very close together. The percentages still broadly the same, ironically, as Drzyzki, still can't say it right, in the Lamborghini that actually has the most percentage, although that's not going to be a huge benefit to him. He's
been saving a lot, hasn't he? Because he was fighting with Farinelli, seems to have let Farinelli or struggled to get past Farinelli, and then it's 7 seconds to the final points position there, with Buono having a bit of a lonely race, 23 seconds down on the two Peugeots. So yeah, it's interesting to how that's developed there. But of course, with attrition, we've had 3 cars out of this race already in Hypercar. There's every chance there's something happens to someone up ahead, then Farinelli and Drzyzki could be fighting for the final points in the race. As there we go, Morocek has to sweep across the front of Nicolas Hoopen before they lap the Aston Martin there. And there we go, Hoopen a little bit too far back to take advantage now. And you can sense Nicolas Hoopen, who thought he had this race wrapped up in the first stint, 6-7 seconds to the good. And now he is finding Morocek a much tougher customer now that he's behind him than when he was ahead of him, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, very, very much so. We're still some distance away from the next stop, assuming, again, weather plays no part in this race. So, again, if you're looking at 50 to 55 minutes, oops, assuming it's a little bit uncomfortable on the exit of Coca-Cola, turn 3. It's not going to cost them a huge amount. But again, you don't want to be doing that. The drivers have been going for, bearing in mind, we had qualifying and they've had practice before this. So they've been in their rigs quite a while. So, yeah, and they still have another hour to go. So, I mean, these are some of the best in the business. There's a big banzai on the inside of the Mustang that I suspect is Vojta Pelesny. No, sorry, that's Wunsch. It had to be one of the two. And of course, 50-50, and I get it wrong.
Wunsch recovering well from that spin earlier, though, although he gets all the way ahead of Geelhead, who has to sort of pick a side at the last moment through nets there. And that indecision has cost him, because Grigoletto is almost within a second now. So Geelhead was hoping to get involved in the lead battle, But now he's been caught himself, so our top 4 converging closer and closer by the lap. As we see another yellow flag briefly out in traffic, somebody just went a little bit wide there. But Huben is really lining up, as there we see Hoyer in turn is lining up Erchan in the fight for 5th, but they're 10 seconds behind the leaders, so Hoyer and Erchan have either not had the pace, or Hoyer has just ended up playing a little bit of a conservative game, because of course he's got distinct car advantage over SimGrid. That's why he's pulled the gap that he has. But the Ferraris a little bit low down the pack have just ended up fighting each other and not really working together, I think, as well as they might have hoped then.
Well, indeed, but again, getting drivers to work together when they are in the same team is hard enough, let alone when they're not actually in a team at all.
Every man for himself with all that prize money.
Absolutely, absolutely so. As we look at the Hypercar leaders coming past our GT3 leader of Tomasz Leiden, done everything he needed to do to build himself nearly 3 seconds over pole sitter Luke Whitehead. Nevin Rocek is just kind of staring at those lights that are from Nicholas Oben that are glaring into his soul, and just doing everything he possibly can. He knows where he has to defend. He knows he is at a disadvantage. Well, I wondered if Huben was going to bounce on the inside of the final turn there, but opted not to do so. And that is the position changes from the start of the race. Macaulay being the biggest loser so far, and Erchan actually being the biggest gainer of the race so far. So we still have most of the second half of it to run. Is this going to be an opportunity for Huben? Rocek is gone defensive, but Huben did not follow suit. So I think Huben may well just be playing the longer game here, just biding his time, saving what he can for that final stint. So we look at Luke Whitehead, second in the GT3s, Schindler behind. That's Hoyer, and I've forgotten who Hoyer was fighting now.
Erchan.
Erchan, yes. But also there's Prendergast, that is not far behind either. Oh, crikey. And these Hypercars they're so agile. They, as we've just seen, they'll slot in between the gaps in the GT3s. Oh my God, that was so close. It looks very close on the offboard. Again, they're probably looking at it like, yeah, that's fine. There's no issue there. But certainly from an outside perspective, that is very, very close. We look at Veet and Baller that are having an argument for a spot inside the top 10.
I love how you call him Baller. I think he would love that, Fabian Ballet, but the German. But yeah, this is the fight between these two German drivers, funnily enough, for that final points-paying position. So it's the bright baby blue Mustang versus the dark green 777 Aston Martin of Mark Veit, of course. He's sort of, him and Arda Erchan have kind of swapped positions between GT3 and Hypercar in between seasons. But yeah, meanwhile, Huben still within 4/10 of Rocek. Rocek soaking up the pressure, and it's just a matter of Rocek trying to hold on until the pit stops, I think, at the present moment. And I feel like surely Davin Rocek's in a position where he's got to change tyres finally at this second stop, and that could drop him possibly behind Huben. Or no, actually, Huben, it depends what Huben decides to do. If he's going to switch it around and decide to double stint in this particular stop, or if he's going to change tyres as well. I think it's going to depend whether he can get through before the pit stops, what he decides to do here.
Decisions, while still fending off the advances of everybody around them. So I don't envy them whatsoever, but like I said, these are some of the best in endurance racing. I can't manage anywhere near the kind of, like, I'd have fallen off the road long before now. I'd fall off the road in a 5-minute race, frankly. But it's safer for everybody that I take this seat in the commentary box rather than a racing seat. But yeah, production agreeing there. Yeah, thank you, Nick.
Yeah, that little murmur of agreement came a little bit too readily.
Nick Domino in production has known me a number of years, so he's allowed to make that particular analogy. I don't deny it, in fact. I don't deny it at all. So back up towards the top, Rocek, he's still fending off the advances of Huben. And again, Huben is just falling a little bit further back. I think, as you said earlier, Ed, I think he's biding his time. He's going to try and make that last pit stop that little bit shorter. And that could well be the difference between the podium and the win.
Indeed it is, and Huben has actually saved a bit more virtual energy, but of course it's Grigoletto that's got the biggest advantage. You can see him right behind Geelhead here, And this is where Gillett could end up deciding the outcome of this race, could the pole sitter, because if he holds up Grigolotto for long enough, it could stop Fabio Grigolotto from sort of joining this lead fight here. But if Grigolotto is able to clear him quickly, then all of a sudden, Hubin can't really afford to just not take those little opportunities, because Moracek's left a couple of sort of half moves on the table that he could have forced the issue on, but he's decided not to be like risking everything absolutely at this phase of the race. With still an hour left to go on the clock, as we see Polesny now has well and truly caught the back of Marin Bessier as the Ferrari has to decide to go around the outside, because the Aston Martin was he expected it to be slow, but he didn't expect to have that little traction. So yeah, you can really tell after nearly an hour and 40 minutes on the same set of tyres, Marin Bessier is just struggling at every single traction zone on Fuji here. And Polesny knows this could be a fairly straightforward move if he gets close enough before the main straight, essentially.
Yeah, Bessier's tyres are just down to canvas now. There is nothing left. He's doing, in fairness, he's doing a pretty good job to mitigate the damage in the form of the gap between himself and the Whitehead, Schindler, Prendergast trio. Again, he's still feeling confident enough to defend those that are coming upon him. So Wojtek Polesny still having to fight his way past, unless Bessier falls off the road. We got a little bit further back to Mikhail Uchiski and Daniele Farinelli. So they're still arguing for 11th position, the Ferrari and Lamborghini respectively. Uchiski still not able to get into the higher points paying positions. There is Vieten and Ballet. Again, I've said it, I don't know how many times, different ways I've said his name, along with various other people. Again, my apologies for that. Grigolotto.
Oh, Grigolotto lost about 10 seconds.
Yeah, he's been off somewhere. Well, that has completely rewritten his whole strategy then. So, yeah, we did see briefly a yellow come up. And, yeah, that's a huge, huge gap that he's now got to close in. Now, he and Erchan had saved the most, or comparatively more, virtual energy than those around him. Oh, and he's caught up behind Regan Mitchell. Regan Mitchell's doing nothing wrong there. In fact, he's doing exactly what he should be doing, holding his line and letting everybody else work it out. But Grigolotto nearly slams into the back of the McLaren.
I suspect Fabio Grigolotto's had a run in with one of the GD3s there, because it wasn't quite close enough to Gillett to make a move. He was gearing up for him within about a second, but it would surprise me if that was where the spin happened. I genuinely think that the Tedem Esports driver must have had some sort of contact with one of the GD3 back markers, because nobody in the top 5 seemed to have any issues there. So unfortunate, certainly, but that's racing sometimes. And Grigolotto, though, has got the pace to maybe recover some ground in the final hour. But that's great news for Gillett and his chances of sort of holding on to the podium, because the championship leader has sort of disappeared from the rearview mirror there, and now Erchan fancies a run at 4th. There's Polesny now, just being seriously held up by the back of Marin Bessier, who has done well to stay within about 3 seconds of Prendergast, let's be completely honest, on tyres that, as you said earlier, pretty much we're going to see sparks come out the back of it, because I'm pretty sure the metal is going to show at the bottom of the tyre where the canvas rips off in a few seconds time. But he's trying to just hold on to the end of this fuel tank, isn't he? He's got to go for about 5-7 minutes more, I think, if he wants to pit and get to the end. And that, even then, that might need a little bit of saving. But yeah, Polesny is going to try and dive up the inside into Daichi here. He's close enough to do this. Bessier pulls to the outside, desperate to just hold on to the top 5. Almost spins the Mustang round there. That's going to compromise the exit of the Aston Martin a little bit. He's still got the inside. The Ferrari tries to clear both of them before this collision is inevitably going to happen on the exit here. No, they just avoid it, because Polesny goes over the curb and almost off track. And now our Hypercar leaders are going at it hammer and tongs once again. Nicolas Hubin still got the threat from Gillett, 1.8 seconds behind. So Moracek just holding him up very, very convincingly. The longer Davin Moracek stays in front here, the more I think he's turning this into a race win contention sort of drive at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely so. And I'm surprised Bessier is still defending as heavily as he is, but I mean, he's not breaking any rules by doing it. But well, there's a useful camera. But when your tires are that dead and everyone around you isn't, you know oh, look at the slide from the Aston. He's fighting that car so hard, and Wojtek Polesny is getting noticeably frustrated right behind the Frenchman. So, the Czech driver, he's so wanting to get the pace done, the move done, the raw speed of the Aston. And there you go, a flash from Pelesny. I'm not really surprised by that. Whilst, like I say, Bessier's strictly speaking doing nothing wrong, you've got a pace disadvantage, or you certainly have a tyre disadvantage. Pelesny is like, for God's sake, stop fighting me here. Now, Bessier's, I think, conceded defeat on this occasion. As no defensive move made there, through on the inside line, and a boot up the tail for Pelesny there. An apology flash there from Bessier.
That to me was, if you're so quick, then get on with it, was the body language from Marin Bessier there. He very, very gingerly left loads of room on the inside and then turned across and expected the Mustang to be further ahead than it was there. So a little bit unintentionally comical. But from Wojciech Pelesny's point of view, he is in a championship fight with Kim Prenias. Remember, they're 1 and 2 in the standings. So he's lost basically 1 or 2 seconds stuck behind that Aston Martin there. So you can sort of understand the Czech driver's annoyance that Marin Bessier fought him as hard as he did, because Marin Bessier, with all due respect, is not quite in that title hunt at the moment. I'm sure he imagined he would be when he was picking people off left, right and centre in that first stint, but it's all the tyres are just well and truly gone, and he's just trying to reduce the number of pit stops he has to do by getting the field at the end of its stint here, as we nearly get to the final hour about to start here. Oh, is it starting to drip with rain then in this final hour?
Yeah, so production just simply said windscreen wipers. Have we started to see and there it is. So we have started to see the rain. Bessier is
Hubin right behind Morocek for the lead.
Oh, he's been glued there all race long. Is he going to make the move now? Surely he's close enough. He's still not going for the move. He's just staying there. That's phenomenal. I would have thought, especially with the rain now starting to fall, that could well make people rethink their strategies as far as pit stops and timings or what have you. I would have thought Hubin would have gone for it, but then I'm not an experienced endurance racer, so he knows the plan and he is sticking to it.
Look at the virtual energy difference. It was like a 3% difference between the two. I wonder Nicolas Hubin is trying to push Morocek into pitting earlier than he ideally wants, essentially, to try and hold on to this track position here, and that could sort of lead to an interesting situation, because if you pit now, it's nowhere near wet enough. You've sort of got to go for the dries, whereas if Hubin can sort of force Morocek into an unideal strategy here, then it could sort of force his hand, essentially, as old Thomas Leiden, GT3 leader, just coming upon, appearing in front of Hubin at exactly the wrong moment, finally gets out of the way there. But yeah, as you say, nothing really that Leiden did wrong there. He was just at the apex at Dunlop hairpin and then the chicane after the wrong moment for him. And it's now Patrick Schindler. He sees the rain falling down, and anybody like the Peugeots who may well have gone for more of a wet beneficial setup now might be able to fight Henrik Gamble to try and get back into the top 8 there. So I'd be interested to see if Simcic's raw car control and talent can overcome the deficiencies of the Peugeot 9X8, as we've seen for the large majority of this race as the Aston gets well out of the way. Simincic is just absolutely lining up Gamble here, and is he going to gamble and move up the inside?
You've been waiting to say that for a while, haven't you? But also, I'm noticing that Thomas Leiden's lead has...
Oh, Morocek in the lead.
Yeah, Morocek.
He was,
Morocek already was in the lead. So, yeah, Hubin is just... Yeah, you may well be right. Just trying to force an early move there. Oh, as Simincic nearly gets joined in his car by one of the yellow Mustangs, where I suspect is Sebastian Wunsch. Yeah, there's the other one, which will be Pelesny. Oh, crikey. As the Aston is very, very close to... being integrated with a hypercar there. Marin Bessier was very, very popular for a brief moment there. And look at the gap already between himself and Pelesny. The yellow Mustang really pressing on, and he's doing a good job. Yeah, that was a big moment for Simincic. Pelesny is doing a good job of actually eating into the gap to this particular group. Oh, as the two Mustangs nearly come together. Leiden's now started to rebuild that gap, probably with help from the traffic of the
Simincic working up the inside in the background. Is he going to get there first? No, there we go. Gamble holding him at bay, but now he's got to negotiate the 3 GD3s one after the other. This is going to be very tight. Oh, Macaulay nearly loses it behind Simic. I feel like Joe Macaulay has just been contented to follow Simic around and maybe pick up the pieces at the end of this one. It's nearly contact between Simic and Schindler there, and that's actually split up the GD3 battle, much to the relief of Luke Whitehead, who just found himself absolutely under attack there. Apologies, I acted like I was surprised to see Marocek in the lead. I could have sworn I saw one of the top 5 change positions there, but actually it was just Hubin actually falling back a bit into the clutches of Geelhead. And we've now got our top 3 within 1.3 seconds with the rain continuing to fall down. This is crunch time now, because whatever they decide now, that's going to decide how this race plays out. And if you're someone like Marin Basir, who's fallen out of the top 5, you might well gamble on the wets now.
Well, yeah, exactly that. Leiden has rediscovered his pace. He's put almost a second on Whitehead, but look at Pelesny. He is flying to the next 2 Fords ahead of him, Prendergast and Schindler, and of course Luke Whitehead in turn. So Wojtek Pelesny putting himself right in the mixture, second in the championship behind Prendergast, and of course that is his next target. So he's absolutely fine with the conditions the way they are at the moment. Not everybody seems to be as comfortable as he. The top 3 in the hypercars getting very close together once again. Oh, wow. Less than an hour to go. We've got battles for the lead. Well, certainly for the front of the classes. Still just touching distance apart.
Bad lap for Hubert. Oh, no. Marocek in the pits, sorry, I think. Because he just lost 2 positions there, is Davin Marocek.
He is in the pits. So, yeah, Davin Marocek along with Regan Mitchell have come into the pit lane now. So, are they pulling the trigger a bit early onto the wet, or are they just had enough of those drives?
Yeah, this is crucial because we saw in Imola, those that gamble on the wets, it did end up sort of paying off, but then you had the situation where the wets were wearing out when the rain sort of eased off with about like, what was it, like 20 minutes left to go in the race. So you had the face of, do you want to go on the dries where it's still just a little bit too slippy and really difficult to get these mediums up to temperature, or do you stick it out on the wets and have the wets just completely overheat then? So it's with the tire model in Le Mans Ultimate at the moment, it's such a tough call between the two there. But whatever Davin Marocek does now, as I said, that's going to decide whether he wins this race or maybe finishes off the podium. So let's see how it plays out as Prendergast and Schindler are getting really, really excited at the back of Luke Whitehead. And I think this rain has come at the worst possible time for Whitehead, who was just about sussing out the Mustangs. You see the back of a mountain there. Mount Fuji is lovely, but I think the action's happening on track. And given I know visibility was low, but I didn't realize it was that low. There we go. So mediums from Marocek. So he has decided not to gamble. Geelhead is now within 3/10 of Hubin. I think Hubin might be just struggling either with low virtual energy or he is running out of tires here as well.
Could well be, low virtual energy across the board, as you would imagine, except for Trusky down in 11th, as that's Geelhead nearly into the back of Hubin again. So those two still fighting. We're absolute tooth and nail. Grigoletto doing what he can to close in the gap that spin he had a few laps ago has given him. Oh, you can't call it. There's no way we can predict who's going to finish where at the moment. But yeah, I think going on to dries is absolutely right. There's no spray. There's no kind of visible. We know the rain is falling, but the only reason we know it's falling is because of the windscreen wipers. It's very, very, very light, and there's still plenty enough traction left in these dying medium and hard tires. Although only a couple of drivers actually running the hards at all.
Geelhead hit the back of Hubin there into Dunlop.
Into the back. It's trying to dance around Callum Cripps.
Oh, and Hrutrishki makes the move on Farinelli because Farinelli's going to the pits. But yeah, Marocek gained nearly a second in like the first sector there alone. So Hubin is just really tiptoeing his way around here. The only reason he's staying out, I think, must be because he's waiting for it to get wet enough so he can switch to the wet tires then. So this is an attempt to sort of outfox Marocek. It could well backfire, though, if he gets massively undercut here.
Well, indeed, yeah. So it's let's see how Marocek does. We know he's on fresh medium tires. So if he kind of falls away, then the track conditions going more towards the wet. We're just not seeing any kind of spray or indeed any moisture on the track at all. And the drivers obviously have a better idea of where it's slippery, but we're not seeing massive snaps of oversteer. We're not seeing cars really fighting to keep themselves on the straight and narrow. Obsession of Bessier, but we know that his blooming tyres have turned into absolutely mush by now. But we knew that to begin with, so that's nothing to do with the conditions. Whoa, just as I say that, we're seeing plenty of sliding weights going on, coming out of Net's corner. But then these tyres are all pretty worn. We're getting to the end of this stint anyway. The fact that we've got water falling is fairly irrelevant. And that, right behind, that's Pelesny. He is absolutely
move for the lead.
Oh, and that's
Gearhead going for it. So
bouncing off
the
of
outside
Uben.
then.
Oh, who's going to win out here? Who's got the who's had the bigger portion of bravery pills? Still side by side, they're coming through 14. Uben nearly punching Gearhead back in the face. And I was going to say Ferrari ahead of Ferrari. They're both Ferraris. The red one ahead of the yellow one as Uben just and only just remains in the lead. Oh, Gearhead, don't box yourself behind Regan Mitchell. Just about
That's
to
not
voice
Regan
that
Mitchell.
one.
That's Liskowitz.
That's the
Corvette.
Corvette. Beg your pardon. They're both black and yellow. So, and that is that pit lane entry. It is, yes. So, at the along with a lot of cars coming in, a lot of the GT3s coming in as well.
Yeah, Prendergast, I think the highest runner that's coming. No, Luke Whitehead and Bessier as well joining him. So they're going for the wets, interestingly, in GT3. So that to me suggests, oh dear, maybe Davin Rochek has got this call badly wrong. Not only was he first to come in, so the fuel might be a bit marginal, but he has gone for the mediums as everybody else thinks this rain is going to get worse here. So he's been gaining time at the moment, 10th at the moment, pulling away from Paul Lepere. But is he going to find himself just with the wet tire runners breezing past him in this final stint? As we see Ruben and Gearhead being serviced. Grigoletto has carried on, so he has got a little bit more time to react. So too does Arda Erchan, but of course he's about 10 seconds behind the leaders here. So Grigoletto's in a position where he can sort of afford to gamble, as we see Whitehead coming out the pits just ahead of Prendergast. So has Schindler carried on another lap here, interestingly, and he's running in second then. But it looks like all of our GT3s that pit are going onto the wets.
Well, it's Imola all over again, isn't it? Because we had the rain. It happened a bit earlier than this, I think, last time around. But again, it did not last very long. It didn't rain very heavily. So we had that mixture of medium and wet runners. We'll see who is going to come out on top this time around as Loden and Schindler are in the pits. So we can see with the tower there was a bit of a mixture. Yep, Hubin, Campbell, Farinelli, Gilhead, all on wet tyres. Simic is not on wet tyres, nor has Hoyer. What about Lepere and Bueno? What direction have they gone in? We will find out when they've got the Grigoletto and Erchan are now in. So again, it is a repeat of Imola. We have got a very split strategies on where to go with the tyres. Yeah, so it's 50-50, isn't it? This could go either way. Cam Rochek, hold on. He's got a 20-second gap, so that's the difference because he wasn't tiptoeing around like Huben. He put the fresh mediums on and made hay, but now it is really starting to drip down a bit here, and it's a matter of time really before there's this sort of shift in these next few minutes that's going to decide whether the rain hangs around and the wets are the ones to be on, or if you can just about hang on the dries then. But yeah, Mrochek also has got the fact that I think it's Trishki surely heading to the pits now, because Macaulay, Erchan, Grigoletto, Trishki, these are all the drivers that stayed out the extra lap in the last phase of pit stops as well, wasn't it? So yeah, Rochek is about to re-inherit the lead then. And actually, Hutrishki staying out another lap. He's really been saving the field then, as we see Erchan and Grigoletto about to be released. Yeah, Trusky, he did save a lot of his virtual energy compared to the rest of the field. And I said he was going to be too far down to really make advantage of that. I could well be proven wrong and will happily be proven wrong. Oh, look at Grigoletto. He's right behind Huben. Oh, wow. Okay, so it is very much game on then for Grigoletto. Can he... just behind Geelhead, sorry. Yeah, he was behind Huben, then they both just about dripped through there. So there's a big gap to Mrochek. Mrochek is extending that gap, 23 seconds now with 50 minutes left on the clock. If he can save the field, I think Mrochek has pulled the blinder here and maybe suckered all those around him into doing the different strategy going on the wets there. And but it could change around if, like I said, the rain keeps falling, the windscreen wipers are still turning.
Zatrishki's still not pitting. He must have found loads more virtual energy from somewhere, but Morocek is catching him at a rate that not either way. And now we see, oh, Grigoletto and Simičić. This is Simičić. Oh, using the dry tires to get through. There we go. Fabulous move there from the Peugeot.
Yeah, no, Simičić. God, he was not letting that go, was he? Christ.
And that's got championship implications because Grigoletto was leading him going in. So this is a bold call from Simičić so far. It's paying off. He's got to make these moves while it's still dry tire territory. Zatrishki finally in. So we're going to see what the actual order is for the last 50 minutes of this race.
Out comes Wojtek Polesny then. So he was really charging, wasn't he? It looks like he's still in podium contention.
Oh, he's jumped Leiden. He's jumped Leiden's Polesny. So that's why he's staying out so long. It's put on less fuel.
So that's potential GT3 League because Delorme and Cripps have not come in. So, oh wow, Wojtek Polesny in a potential GT3 lead as that is Simičić on the inside line of Gilhood. Along as I'm assuming that's Bassier they've caught up with. Oh, goodness me, it is happening all over the place. Simičić, Gilhead, Grigoletto, all very close together, but Simičić is the odd one out of those particular cars because he is on dry tyres. Who has got what it takes to start to pull away? And at the moment, you've got to say it's the medium runners that have got the grip advantage.
Or if you can at least just extend that medium stint, especially in GT3, then and then go onto the wets, you're putting yourself in a really good position. We see Remy Delorme pitting, but just see if he can gain any ground too, like we've seen Polesny. Callum Cripps is trying the same thing as well. In he comes. So yeah, they're stretching the fuel tank to the absolute limits there. Interestingly, Fabien Ballet went for the mediums, and so too did Regan Mitchell. They were the only GT3s that decided to go that way. And I think with the GT3s, the sort of safer option is to go for the wets. Now Simičić, now he's on the podium. He's lining up Huben. You can see on the wets, the rear sliding all the time. As you said, it's just not wet enough. And I think Davin Rocek is in a position at the moment. I think he's going to win this one. But Simičić has made a miraculous recovery. That decision to go to the mediums has saved his race.
Yeah, well, listen, the wets are just dying. So does that mean the wet runners may well have to pit again? And that's most of the GT3 field. So we might. Mitty Hoyer inside of Grigoletto. No, Whitehead is right in there, wrong place, wrong time for the Ferrari. Did nothing wrong, but shoved off the road. And that's Polesny, I think that's it's either Polesny or it's Wunsch, not exactly sure. It's Wunsch, so that's Whitehead down to 6th. Again, the Lighthead, good grief. Whitehead
I'm getting lightheaded here.
So
Prendergast went off as well. So yeah, GT3s are still struggling on the wets as well. This is absolutely bizarre, this finish. So only 3 of our hypercars have gone for the mediums here. Hoyer is now past Gilhead and Grigoletto. Simičić got up to 2nd while we were watching that Hoyer move. So yeah, Huben is going to struggle to finish on the podium here. So it's Rocek, Simičić, Hoyer, the 3 former sort of teammates at Burst Esports, all of the same mind, all thinking the mediums are the way to go. And these wet runners are going to have just going to have a struggle, I think, in this final stint here, just to get to the end and also avoid the GT3s as well. But yeah, surely, as we see Gilhead losing more time behind, I think that's Seb Wunsch there. It's Hoyer now versus Huben for the final slot on the podium.
No, that was Polesny, because there is Wunsch on the back of Prendergast with Luke Whitehead in.
Oh, here comes Seb.
Oh, it's bold, but is it going to work? So the Ferrari is there to pick up the pieces if it does all go wrong between the 2 Mustangs. So it's a drag race all the way down towards turn 1. Who's going to be brave on the brakes? Well, we're about to find out. So Seb Wunsch by a bumper's width, mere pixels ahead of Prendergast. And this is not what the GT3 Championship leader would have wanted. Luke Whitehead not able to capitalise on the battling Mustangs ahead, but Prendergast isn't letting this move go easily. He's forced to the outside line. Wunsch, has he got it done yet? Yes, he does. That is the yellow Mustang up into 4th.
Yeah, very forceful from Wunsch. He did this. He was in an amazing fight between himself, Ercan, and Liskovitz, all in Ferraris at this race last year. And I think was it Liskovitz that won that battle? And then I think he got a penalty post-race. They're all crunching into each other. But yeah, Wunsch was aggressive but fair there with his old rival Prendergast there, and to keep his championship hopes alive, he needed to do that. So yeah, it was Prendergast, oddly, even though it's very early in the season, he had a bit more to lose there, especially if they collided and let Whitehead through. So there we go. Interesting there. Ballet in 11th, isn't he? Is he the highest runner on the no, it's Remy Delorme who's the highest runner on the mediums. And you see there, he's actually just gotten ahead of Timotej Andonovski then, who of course had made that recovery from the back of the grid. Andonovski went for the wets though, and it's Delorme that is reaping the benefits with 44 minutes left on the clock. If the rain doesn't get any heavier, Remy Delorme could pick off a lot of the cars ahead of him, because he's not too far behind Bessier now.
Delorme finished 5th last time around. This is the sort of gamble that he
really
needed to pay. That's Grigoletto on Gillhead for 5th place. Oh, big move. Gillhead saw it coming, gave the necessary racing room. Is he going to get the up and under? Oh, there's rear wheels beginning to let go, and they remain pointed in the right direction. So Fabio Grigoletto gets up into 5th with only 43.5 minutes to go. That's not where he wants to be by. In saying that,
well, with that spin, he was like 10 seconds behind.
True enough.
So he's caught that back up, and of the wet runners, he's effectively second now. So you have to say it's sort of damage limitation for our championship leader at this phase, isn't it? As there's Huben, still catchable for Grigoletto, I think. So no reason to give up hope just yet. But Hoyer has also sneaked his way in to 3rd and is not far behind Simoncic. So even in these wet conditions, the Ferrari's still got the advantage. We could be in for another classic Simoncic versus Hoyer battle to finish 2nd here, because Davin Rotchek has just pulled the blinder here and is easily pulling away from everybody else. 32 seconds to the good now. So he saw which way the wind was blowing. It so easily could have been so wet, and it could have gone exactly the other way. But fortune favors the brave, as they say, and Rotchek is going to win big here.
If it remains where it is, though, so like I said, we don't know how the weather is going to form. If it doesn't get any wetter,
it could just be light rain consistently drizzling. So I think it's sort of a case in GD3. If it's drizzling, you may as well gamble and put on the wets. But in Hypercar, at the sort of higher speeds, you get so much more advantage if you can make the mediums work in these conditions. So yeah, it's a difficult gamble, but our wet runners, they're going to continue to overheat and spin up the rear tires, whereas the mediums, as long as you stop them from getting too cool, they can work out here. But yeah, I think Michi Hoyer isn't done yet. I think he fancies a run at Simoncic if he can get close enough. As we see Gillhead being held up by Regan Mitchell, and you can see Erchan fancies getting himself back into the top 6 here. This has been another strong drive from the Turkish driver, who's sort of kept Grigoletto just about in sight, hasn't he, since that spin? And it's sort of that midfield pack, he's been one of the standouts, it must be said. Look how close it is, by the way, behind Leiden now in the fight for 2nd. He's falling into the clutches of Schindler. So yeah, it's still all to play for. And amazingly, Whitehead is still outside the top 5 then, after sort of losing out with the rain. I did say Whitehead was dreading the rain, and you can sort of see why, because now he's losing touch a little bit with Prendergast.
Yeah, it's the weather was not his friend in Italy, in Imola.
Hoyer getting very close to Simoncic. Sorry, Chris.
It is. No, not at all. But you can also see Prendergast's tail is wagging all over the place. There is Michi Hoyer on the back of Joni Simoncic. These two have crossed swords for absolutely years in various championships, in various different sim racing machinery. They know what to expect from each other, but at the moment, you got to say it's going to be advantage Germany as Michi Hoyer sizes up his opponent. Oh, getting down through the gears. Oh, well, in saying that, Michi Hoyer's Ferrari still looked a bit uncomfortable on power coming out of Daichi, out of turn 1. And Simoncic, I can't really see he's going to have any real defense in that Peugeot against that brutal pace of Michi Hoyer.
Yeah. Oh, as Hoyer goes off track. Oh, that's so tricky for 100R. They came upon Callum Cripps at exactly the wrong moment. Michi Hoyer does recover himself, and then off. To add insult to injury, almost gets held up again as the Porsche's got the headlights on a full blast, and with it getting very dark and the rain coming down, you can't really blame him. But yeah, that was a bit risky from Michi Hoyer around the outside there, and he just sort of ran out of road at too high speed through 100R. So Michi Hoyer knows to keep, because he had that bad first round, he needs to get as many points out of this endurance round as he can. So yeah, Simoncic given a reprieve with 40 minutes left on the clock. The other thing we need to keep an eye on is the progress of Remy Delorme on those mediums in GD3, because he was sort of catching. You see, Hutrishki has now used this rain interruption to catch Marco Buono for the final points position. Is that Delorme going really deep into that first hairpin? So maybe now it's starting to get too wet for those on the dries in GD3, and that could be a harbinger of what's to come for our dry runners in Hypercar as well.
Yeah, absolutely so. And that's a very tentative run through turn 3 as well for Delorme. So it could well be that finally the pace advantage is going towards the wet runners. There's a yellow flag out there somewhere. Oh, he's watched on board with Michi Hoyer, the tail. Oh, wow, massive snap from Simoncic. But also, has the damage been done to these wet tyres? They've been running on, not necessarily near dry, but far from wet conditions. So that has taken a lot of life out of these wet tyres. Just no one's told Michi Hoyer that. So he glues himself to the inside line of 100.
He won't care
he's
one
on the
drop.
Well, true enough. So has it then? Oh, so as is Simoncic. So yeah, the top 3 in Hypercar. They don't want it to get any wetter. And Michi, a bit of a touch between himself and Simoncic. Oh, don't then get a tail full of Corvette, which they don't. But Michi Hoyer all over the back of the Peugeot of Simoncic. But again, every time.
Oh,
that's Farinelli. Was it Lapierre or Farinelli?
One of the two, and Hoyer's through on Simoncic as Morocek's in the pits. It's too wet for him. He's had to make a second stop here, so Morocek had a huge gap there. Could be about to lose that. Look at that. Simoncic has fought his way back through. So this could still go any way. 38 minutes to go of this 2 hours, 40 minutes race at Fuji, and there's any more than 4 drivers that could win it, I think.
While Morocek had the gap, had the advantage of being able to change the starts, even if he goes for another set of mediums. Which
going for wet, surely.
I would have thought so, but there goes Michi Hoyer.
Inside.
Yep, so Michi Hoyer, then the German driver, gets ahead of Jene Simoncic, takes the lead of the race. Wow. It's the big slide, but look at the lack of traction he's got. Unreal. Just there's very little. Well, he's got more than Simoncic obviously has. But what tyres did Morocek go on? We will catch up with that when we can. There is Grigoletto chasing his way. No, it's not. It's Huben, beg your pardon. That is Grigoletto. They're all red Ferraris. So Grigoletto is, basically, it's going to be a case of survival at one point. There is Morocek. Oh, that's Gamble that is alongside him. Is that wet tyres on Morocek? Yeah, I mean... Oh, and a big snap of hose. And now this is going to be interesting. Fresh tyres for Morocek. Can he get them in the operating window? And has everyone else burnt too much out of their wets? That is what Morocek is gambling on. He did have a healthy gap up front, but he now finds himself way down in 8th position.
Yeah, so how quickly things can turn around. Just that little bit of percentage of rain falling down has changed the picture here and put... Morocek in that position where he's forced to make that stop for the wets then. And in fact, has Remy Delorme had to do the same because we saw him struggling? Yeah. Yes, he has. He's on the wets in 11th position. That puts Liskowitz actually into the points in the Corvette, which will be a big boon for the Polish driver there, who has really had to fight on. He's 16 seconds behind Mark Veit then. But now we cut back to the this is the Sebastian Wunsch, Schindler, and Prendergast fight just to get that final podium position. Of course, you got to feel a bit for Leiden because he got outfoxed on the strategy. Wojtek Polesny pulled an absolute blinder going for the wet. It was the safer call with the rain falling down to do that then, and he's just absolutely continued to extend that gap. So you've got to say the Czech driver has gone from sort of being mired in that pack just off the podium to all of a sudden in the position to win this one. As we see, this is Nicolas Huben, who senses that Simoncic is struggling now, and he seems to have kept some tread on those wets then. So you've got to say Huben is going to take advantage here, and this is the question now. Can Morocek clear through the field on the fresh wets quickly enough? Can Huben clear through Simoncic and Hoyer in quick succession? Or can maybe Michi Hoyer build a big enough gap to hold on as... Oh, Gamble has dropped it somewhere. So he'd just been overtaken by Morocek previously, and now the steering looks a little bit buckled. Or at least he's really had a slow run out of the first corner there. Oh, yeah. That Ferrari does not look fun to drive at all.
No, that's an unhappy Ferrari. So that's turn 1 where he's had trouble. But as we cut back to the battle for second position,
here
that
he
is
comes.
Hoban on the inside of SimGrid coming through 10:15. Oh, has the Peugeot got well, he has got the inside line, but has he got any pace left? Hoban trying to dance around the outside, coming through Panasonic, through that final turn. Whoa, big slide from the Ferrari. SimGrid doesn't look like he's got anything left to defend against. Slots in behind the Ferrari. That's Hoban up to second.
Yeah, that was brilliant racing between the two. Simičić knew he did not want to clatter into the side of Niklaus Hoban, and Hoban had to sort of hold his nerve around the outside there and just hope that the Peugeot would cooperate there. But that's put Hoban back in. Remember, he's waited so long to take the lead from Marocek, hasn't he? And finally, by playing it safe on the strategy, the cards have started to fall his way. So the big question is, can Hoban catch Hoyer in these final 34 minutes? You got to think it's going to be nip and tuck for a little while, but Michi Hoyer really pushed to build as big a gap as he could. But now it's Hoban on the wets that's going to start eating it on. He's taking a whole second out of Hoyer in this sector alone. I think this is a question of Hoyer and Simičić. How can they hold on to position in the top 5 here even?
Well, that is exactly it. So we are just over half an hour away from the end of the race. So we've been here for over 2 hours.
Grigoletto.
That's Grigoletto and Simičić. Yep, we've already seen the Peugeot struggling for traction. Oh, well, Grigoletto's struggling to slow the car down. But that is Simičić out of podium contention now in the 94 Peugeot. So yeah, we've been racing for over 2 hours, and the top 5 of the hypercars less than 5 seconds apart. The top 5 of the GT3s less than what, 7 or 8 seconds? There you go, just over 8 seconds apart for the GT3s, and there is no guarantee that anyone's going to finish where they are. Another yellow flag out there. Who's had trouble? Oh, that's a very slow and it can't have been Hoban, surely.
Hoban got a little held up by the traffic there, but that's only a couple of attempts he's lost. Hoyer's been caught hand over fist here.
Yeah.
So you've got to think Hoban, as long as he doesn't take too many risks, this should be straightforward. But you've got to keep in mind, Grigoletto, one mistake here, Grigoletto could be right back in this lead fight. This has been an amazing comeback from our championship leader. The Italian winner of this event last season has been absolutely on the charge since that spin and since the rain fell down.
Yeah, but again, playing the strategy, playing the weather brilliantly well. Grigoletto did the exact same thing on home soil in Imola 2 weeks ago. Oh, that's very close between the Simičić and one of the blue, well, both of the blue.
Sven Gielhed, a pole sitter, going around the outside of 100R. Surely not, Sven. You're not going to pull that one. Yes, he is on the wets. Oh, Simičić had no option but to back down there. And look at this, Hoyer being caught. He's well and truly got a problem, and it's a Nicholas Hoban-shaped problem coasting up to the back of him. Hoban's got to be careful. Oh, Hoyer goes wide, and he takes the lead as Nicholas Hoban. With 31 minutes left on the clock, that was opportunism and a half, and he had to do that. Grigoletto's catching all of them.
Both compatriots, both German drivers. Nicholas Hoban did not need a second invitation to take the lead from his countryman as past. I think that's Wojciech Pelesny, the GT3 leader. They are working their way past. Another yellow flag out there. But yeah, Hoyer's just got nothing left in his tires. Oh my God, Grigoletto! Oh no! Oh no! I mean, that was a very long way back that Grigoletto was trying to make that move. Michi Hoyer was ahead, but that is devastating for Grigoletto. Down into 6th position, just ahead of Luke Whitehead. Oh, yes, I know Luke Whitehead's a GT3 runner, but that is disastrous. Only half an hour left for Grigoletto to actually make a difference, and that was someone. Who was that into the pits?
Wet.
Yeah, so he's had enough of those tyres. Only half an hour left on the clock, and that's Ercan. Is that to be Ercan and Hoyer? Oh, they've come together. And that's Gielhed's going to nail the pair of them.
Oh dear, just too aggressive there from Arda Ercan, and that's cost both of them, him and Grigoletto somehow back up to 5th in all of that. So, yeah.
Well, that's because Simičić has gone into the pits. So he recovered into 6th position. So Simičić,
yeah, Hoyer's still ahead then. So yeah,
he is.
It's so difficult with these Ferraris to tell what position they're all in, but yeah.
Farinelli is retired.
Oh, so Farinelli made contact with Ercan then. So that was a bit weird. But now Ercan is coasting right back up to the back of Gielhed once more then. And this is crucial because, now Hoban is starting to escape up the road. Grigoletto only 3 seconds behind. Despite that massive... You've got to say Grigoletto dived on Hoyer from another postcode. So that was... super risky. And for the second time in this race, Grigolado found himself around, and with plenty of time to make up, then he's gonna be kicking himself, I think, at the end of this one, because the first mistake we didn't quite see what happened, but the second one, that definitely was a case of him getting way too excited, knowing he had the car advantage. And look, the rooster tails are starting to appear as the wet patches well and truly making themselves apparent. So Hoyer, having seen Simičić pit the previous lap, is Hoyer going to try and stick it out for these final 29 minutes and hope that he can get on the podium as all the dry runners crash into each other, basically? Or is he going to admit defeat and go for the wets?
Well, there can't be very many dry runners left. That's Hoyer so deep into turn one, but he won't have a choice. Also trying to stay out of the way of the black Mustang of what I think is Schindler. But yeah, impossible to know. There's Schindler and Prendergast. So that must have been Rodriguez.
Michelle Rodriguez, yep.
So that's such a tough call for Mitchy Hoyer. With less than half an hour to go, does he just kind of run and hope? Or does he come in and hope that everybody else comes in? Oh, that's Farinelli. I thought he'd retired, but yeah, more trouble then for the Italian. It's been an unraveling race for him, certainly in these closing stages. But Mitchy Hoyer, whatever he chooses to do, he's still got defensive work to get on with as Gilhead and Erchan are right on his case.
Yep, so Gilhead then, having sort of survived the attack from the coming together of Erchan, then is now in prime position to attack up the inside into nets. He goes, Mitchy Hoyer goes wide, leaves just enough room. Oh, and is Erchan going to make it 2 moves in 1? Hoyer is just a sitting duck out here in these wet conditions on the dry tyres. With 28 minutes left to go, he's surely got to come in, because otherwise he's not going to finish in the top 5. There's Grigolado in the distance, yep, and Mitchy knows it. I think he's reacting maybe a lap or two too late here, because he's going into the pits now. Grigolado is going to move up to 4th despite that spin, but surely Grigolado would be in 2nd and right behind Nicolas Hupen now if he had not gone for that move on Mitchy Hoyer, if he just waited for the straight.
Well, the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right as we look to the still dueling black Mustangs of Schindler and Prendergast. Prendergast has been the trailing of these two Mustangs pretty much all race long, but they're not that far behind Wunsch, who is not that far behind Leiden either.
Look at Andonovski. Look at Andonovski from the very back of the grid. He's worked his way up to 7th, ahead of Meirin Bezier, and he's right behind Whitehead, our pole sitter. So from the back to almost in the top 5 then. This is a very impressive comeback from Andonovski. But considering what happened the last time these two crossed swords, if I were Luke Whitehead, I would be feeling a sense of dread. And look in the darkness, it's so aggressive to the headlights look on that Aston Martin. It's almost like you wouldn't want to bump into Timotei Andonovski in a dark alley. And that's certainly what Fuji's starting to look like.
Yeah,
film noir with all the rain as well.
Yeah, so true. And Luke Whitehead is kind of just minding his own business at this stage. But once again, the weather strategy not going his way. Oh, that was so close between Andonovski and the tail end of the Ferrari. But what can Andonovski do? Is he going to try and get the move done into Dunlop Corner, turn 10? Surely that is where his prime opportunity is. He hasn't looked, think about it, but Luke Whitehead has enough traction to keep the Aston at bay. Oh, that's a spin. That's Farinelli again. Oh dear, oh dear. It's unwinding very, very badly for him. But Andonovski still can't get the move complete. Whitehead is defending everywhere he needs to, forcing the Aston to the outside line, coming through 14 and 15. Whitehead still up into 6th. Andonovski's trying to cut back underneath the Ferrari at every opportunity. But Whitehead is just positioning his car perfectly.
Yeah, there we go. So Whitehead seems perennially to get on pole and have to do all the defensive job for everyone behind him in the race. But Andonovski pressuring him as much as possible. We now got a fight for 2nd. So with Hoyer pitting out the way, Muracek is back up to 5th. He's only about 3 seconds behind Grigolado. Remember, he put the fresh wets on. Erchan, of course, still defending from Gila. So I think Erchan has actually got past Sven Gilhead then. And that is the situation we're looking at the moment. So Ard Erchan, he's won in GD3. Can he maybe win? Oh, it's round the outside at the first hairpin. Goes Andonovski and Whitehead trying to get the superior traction on exit here, but he's going to be on the outside for Coca-Cola. Oh, more contact between these two. At least it's not in the pit lane this time, but Andonovski squeezes his way through, and look at Bessier is starting to catch the pair of them as well. And Andonovski, that move could not have come any sooner. Well, he would ideally wanted it sooner, but it's come now.
Absolutely so. Look at the Ferrari getting uncomfortable in traction. Oh, it has a look on the inside line coming through turn 6. Can't get it done though as the various Ferraris come past. There's Michi Hoyer having just reshot his car. He's just got to go absolutely flat out now. He's got nothing left to lose. They're still well inside the top 10. And if he finishes where he does now, if he finishes where he is now, he will match his finishing result from Imola 2 weeks ago. Of course, not what he's after. There's Yanni Simoncic, who also has had to pit again. So could well be plenty of pace left for them to use.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time left to deploy it.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually that Simoncic didn't really get much of an undercut on Michi Hoyer, because there was like 2 laps in between the pair of them pitting there. So I guess Hoyer was able to do just enough to hold on. Erchan starting to, it was about 8 seconds the gap. Erchan has got it back to 6.5 now. So Huben is not looking quite as comfortable as he did earlier. We still got Maracek, I think, is one of the fastest ones on track, closing on Grigoletto for 4th. So I wonder how hard Fabio is going to defend that position if he's able to as well. And if Maracek can kill Grigoletto quickly, there's every chance, I think, that he can get in this fight for 2nd. But it depends if Erchan can reel in Huben as well.
Yeah, and that's what we've got to remember is Maracek also has had that extra pit stop. I kind of thought, oh, he's down in 8th. He's not going to have time to close that in. Oh, me of little faith. He's within 10 seconds of the lead now, so he is absolutely flying in compared to the rest. Grigoletto, he's actually to say it may not be able to defend against the Toyota. Well, I guess we're about to find out, because Grigoletto has got
those tyres have done a full spin as well. So.
Yeah, true. Yes, also true. So here comes Maracek then on the back of a Grigoletto, bouncing around an Aston whilst they're at it. Struth alive. This is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and still 22 minutes left to go. This has been a fantastic 2.4 hours of Fuji as we see Ferrari. That must be Farinelli coming out the pits then. So 20 minutes left on the clock as we see Maracek all over the back, Grigoletto in the background. It's Polesny continuing to pull away from Leiden to the tune of 5.8 seconds. 2 seconds in arrears is Sebastian Wunsch. So Leiden hasn't quite got 2nd lockdown just yet. Patrick Schindler is 4th with Kim Prendergast, and a move being attempted in the background. That is Maracek trying to go around the outside then of the number 50 Ferrari. Can he make this move on Grigoletto? Oh, they barge into the side of each other into turn 6, but it's Maracek on the fresh wets that's through. He has to go round the outside. Somebody else has gone well off track. It's Mikolaj Trishka, I think, that's had a moment at the final corner there. Still side by side they go. Grigoletto has to concede defeat, and Maracek is up to 4th now, flying out on track with Gearhead just 2.7 seconds up the road from him. Oh, and a bump in the back for good measure from Grigoletto, who's got to hope he can just follow Maracek around now and catch up to the podium.
Is that Simoncic that's closing in on them as well?
I think it is.
So Grigoletto can't just, yeah, it is. It's Yanni Simoncic closing in.
That was Joe McCauley, sorry. So yeah,
it was McCauley.
Yeah, Simoncic, Joe McCauley's been quietly getting himself into the top 6 here and closing on Grigoletto. So our championship leader, the rear is looking not in the best condition. Has just got to struggle to hold on to the top 5 here.
Prendergast and Schindler still glued together in the battle for 4th position for GT3. They're still not that far behind Wunsch, so it still could become a podium battle for them. We will have to see. The yellow Mustang's just, I was going to say slightly out of shot. There he is. So Wunsch has not been able to break away too much from the pair of black Mustangs. The yellow flag again.
It's Gearhead.
Oh no! From well inside our pole sitter, from well inside the top
damaged.
5. Oh my goodness me. So still twists and turns in the tail. Pick words, rearrange in correct order. But that puts McCauley in the Peugeot, now inside the top 5.
And he's right behind Grigoletto too, and he's through. Oh my goodness me, Grigoletto I think's had a massive moment there. He's gone well off track in that number 50 Ferrari, almost at the same spot there. So I think Geelhead had some sort of contact either with another Hypercar. He was about a second behind Erchan, wasn't he? Or one of the GD3s just coming out of Daichi. And that's really done for Geelhead. Grigoletto's had a massive moment as well, which has allowed Macaulay into the top 4. So Marocek isn't too far away from Erchan there. 20 minutes to go. He could absolutely get second here. And then I think even Niklas Huben may feel a bit worried here because Marocek, first of all, we thought he nailed the strategy. Then we thought he got it horribly wrong. Now it seems he's recovering brilliantly.
Wow. I mean, even to get a podium, quite frankly, considering the race he's had, is still an amazing feat. As we look at Hoyer and Simičić once again united this time. It is the Peugeot trying to apply the pressure to the Ferrari. It's been the other way around for a lot of the race, but it's Jenny Simičić trying to get one over Mitty Hoyer, who was leading. We've got to remember he was leading for a while, but that was just the strategy not going his way. Marin Bessier was leading in GT3 for a while. This race has seen quite a few class leaders over the course of the race. He's having a look at Luke Whitehead, who was the pole sitter and was a leader for quite some time in the GT3s. See Bessier flashing his lights. Luke doesn't have to relinquish the position, do you? But Luke is struggling a bit more than Marion is, because again, Marion has had that extra pit stop. That's why he's down in 8th position. He really gambled with that very quick pit stop in that first stint, double stinting his medium tyres, probably hoping for the rain to appear quicker than it did. Very much backfired on him, but still in the hunt for more points.
And look at Andonovski. He's pulled away from Whitehead, and he's only about 2 seconds behind Prendergast. So we could be looking at a 1, 2, 3, 4-way, 4 or 5-way fight for second, essentially, given how close they were all. And look at that, 11 places gained from the very back of the grid for Andonovski. Wunsch and Polesny have also been big gainers in this race too. But Bessier knows once more that the Ferrari is in a weak position relative to him. So he's just got to keep the pressure on Luke Whitehead here, who for the second race in a row has fallen from pole to potentially looking at a lot. In Imola, he was 6th. Here, he might not even finish in the top 6, down in 7th. He may not even finish in the top 7 if Marin Bessier has anything to say about it. But yeah, certainly, despite the strategy and the double stint. Whoa! No! Big mistake from Marin. He taps the wall as well. Let's hope he didn't take too much damage there. But Luke Whitehead getting quite a lot of relief there, I think, seeing Marin Bessier lose it behind him.
Big reprieve for Luke Whitehead. Yeah, such a shame for Marin Bessier. He was really pushing hard, but it's that one tiny mistake. Again, it's difficult to tell just how wet it is because it's so dark, but seeing how these drivers are really struggling everywhere for traction shows you how wet it is. Watching from the back of Schindler, there goes Prendergast on the inside line, whether he's intended to or not. He's tried to make the move down into turn 10, down in the Dunlop, can't get it done, and there's no traction for Schindler to find where he's going for it. Prendergast trying everything to get past Schindler, but still no dice, still 4th in the hands of Schindler. Prendergast has gone he's trying everything. He's so far got no answer. My God, Schindler must be absolutely sweating bullets with the amount of pressure he's under.
Yeah, that to me felt like a bit of desperation from Prendergast. I've been stuck behind Schindler for so long. Sees Andonovski is rapidly coasting up to the back of them.
Yeah.
Sees Sebastian Wunsch starting to pull away and fight with Thomas Leiden for second. Meanwhile, here's an update on our hypercars. Marocek is less than 2 seconds behind Erchan. Erchan has got the gap below 5 seconds to Hupen. He's not really catching Hupen quickly enough. So it's down to whether Marocek can clear Erchan in a timely manner. Macaulay isn't too far behind. Grigoletto's got a decent gap to Geelhead after Geelhead had that massive moment, and it's 20 seconds to Hoyer behind, who's still holding off Simičić convincingly. So, yeah, so all of our top 8. Whoa! And side by side again between Prendergast and Schindler on the exit of Daichi here. Can Prendergast go the long way around? Surely he's going to back out, but he dies underneath. And that's an absolutely brilliant move from Kieran Prendergast, who snuck up on Patrick Schindler, forced him to sort of defend the racing line, and then just simply dived underneath him. And now he's going to be easy prey for Andonovski.
Well, that's the thing. Here comes our hypercar leaders as well. That's Erchan going through. As much as Marocek flashed his lights, letting everybody know they were there. But I mean, they can't just vanish. So Marocek was slightly held up there, but gets back under power once more. That gap between Erchan and Huben is is slowly coming down with 15 minutes left to go. We'll see if it is coming down enough. But yeah, Schindler forced into that mistake by Prendergast for 4th position, but he's still not been able to run away. And here comes Adanovsky from the back of the GT3 field up into challenging for potential podium. Absolutely super. That's SimGrid, I think, that is now coming through.
No, it's
No,
Joe
wrong
McCauley.
one. It's McCauley.
Joe McCauley's going to feel so offended at the end of this one. Not only are you getting mixed up with Jack McConnell, but also SimGrid.
Yeah,
he can't win, no matter what he does, poor Joe.
SimGrid at least is in the same car, so I've got that excuse. But no, but Joe McCauley's done an absolutely stunning job just keeping it on the black stuff. And sometimes that is just all you need to do, is whilst everyone else is battling and falling off the road, is just stay clean. I mean, Joe McCauley was 13th in Imola, so you know, inside the top 5 at an endurance event is going to have a huge boost.
Oh!
And that's a tangle
Prendergast
between
in trouble. Oh no!
Who's
Prendergast in the wall. That's a championship
It is.
leader almost in the wall. So yeah, it seemed like Prendergast and Schindler just got caught up for whatever reason at Daichi, and Andonovsky made a 2-in-1 move and up to 4th there. So as you say, just staying out of trouble, staying on the road can benefit you so much here. Andonovsky from last to 4th, and it's only 4 seconds to Wunsch. He might not be done yet.
Big slide from the Aston as we kind of briefly. There is Mrocek on the back of Chan with, I think, Wojtek Polesny. So that's our GT3 leader in the mixture, with also, I think that's Callum Cripps, the purple light. It is indeed Callum Cripps, our sole surviving Porsche. But Mrocek is hustling hard for 2nd in the hypercars. So Chan has left the door open, and that's Mrocek through, bounces off the Ferrari. Can the Toyota get enough traction? They're side by side. Oh God, again, bravery pills being consumed by the bucketful here. I think Mrocek has had to concede that one. He ducks behind the Ferrari. Flash of the lights from Mrocek, but Mrocek had the opportunity to get the power down, but Erchan was there, and that's broken Mrocek's momentum, and that's given Huben another 2 seconds to his lead, near enough.
Yeah, you can see Mrocek flashing his lights saying, look, if you keep holding me up, I can't catch Nicolas Huben. And Arda Erchan is saying, who cares about that? I want to finish 2nd. I'm not letting you through. And so he's putting up a fantastic fight. He's held on for a lot longer than I think a lot of people expected. But Arda Erchan is really showing his talent. The conditions have sort of opened up this opportunity, and he has snatched it with both hands. And you can feel Mrocek's a little bit of frustration there. If he'd gone for the conventional strategy with Huben, I think he wouldn't have had to overtake Erchan at this point. But there's so many permutations up the inside. Oh, big dive from Davin Mrocek into the turn 6 hairpin. And can Arda Erchan get the up and under, get back through? Yes, he can. Fantastic traction from the Ferrari there. And he is giving Davin Mrocek the fight of his life for 2nd position.
Oh, that's an outbreaking maneuver, trying to get the outside line through turn 10. He wants the
done
inside
it
for 11. Well, has he, though? He's gotten ahead for now. Has he completed the move? Yes, he has just. I love the fact that Mrocek flashed his light to say, I'm coming through, and Ardan Erchan was just like, really? I'll have this back then. So
bring it on, yeah.
Yeah, so Mrocek then back up into 2nd place. Has he got enough time? Less than 12 minutes until the checkered flag falls, with just under 6 seconds for Mrocek to close in. That's a big ask in these conditions, but it does look like Mrocek's got the pace advantage. It's possible. And that would be a story of the century, considering that, you know, he's had another stop to everybody else, and you know, he's given it absolutely everything he possibly can to make the strategy work. But Wojtek Polesny, again, in that yellow Mustang, has just done everything absolutely right. As we've got another yellow flag. Who's that off? It's Gamble in the yellow Ferrari. Has had a bit of a moment.
It's Marco De Buono.
Oh, it's Buono. Beg your pardon. I couldn't see which colour the car was in my own defence. So yeah, Marco De Buono. I'm going to pick random syllables now and start.
I think well, last season he did run as Marco De Buono, which is why we call him that. And he seems to have got the D out of his name. It's sort of an Ayrton Senna de Silva situation. He just got rid of the silver bit, I guess. But yeah, Marco Buono's. He started off the race promisingly, and he's now just sort of hitting difficult. But to be fair, these are treacherous conditions. I think all the drivers are just doing well to keep it on the island at the present moment. As here we see Prendergast, having had that spin, is now about 3 seconds behind. Oh, it's Patrick Schindler, sorry. Yeah, so him and Prendergast in exactly the same car. And you can tell it's Schindler because his car is in one piece, whereas Prendergast has had a significant hit with the wall. But he's still, to his credit, Prendergast, still holding off Luke Whitehead. But on a day where Polesny's going to win and take the championship lead, Prendergast could well have done without that error. And I wasn't sure if it was in the darkness with a hypercar just sort of braked a bit early and caught Prendergast out, or if Prendergast has got a little bit greedy on the front and then got caught up with Schindler, who he didn't expect to be there. But either way, Andonovski profited from it all. And he's not quite catching Wunsch at a rate of knots, but Sebastian Wunsch keeping the pressure on Thomas Leiden, to his credit. 1.6 seconds, 1.4 seconds, I should say, is the gap there. So Leiden has done as best he can, level best, to keep Polesny in sight. But Polesny on the fresher tyres, having pit a bit later, has just started to run away with this race, and he's strategically out. It was a very Jerne Simic sort of strategy from Wojciech Polesny, it must be said. So the Czech driver is mass experience in sim racing coming to the fore. Speaking of Simic, he's not giving up on trying to get 7th off of Michi Hoyer, and in his quest to limit the damage that the likes of Marocek, Macaulay, Huben, and Grigoletto are going to do in the standings, Jerne needs to clear Michi here.
He does, but again, bearing in mind that Michi was muscling his way past Jerne Simic. Oh, and that big slap from the Peugeot coming into turn 1. I wonder whether Jerne's just got anything left to be able to attack the German ahead of him, but we will see. Less than 10 minutes to go. You also got to bear in mind that because these drivers have been going for so long, a fair amount of fatigue will be kicking in. As well experienced in endurance racing as these drivers are, they will all be feeling it by now.
Oh, look at that.
So that is Nicholas Huben that is losing time. Look at well, you've just seen in the back of the shot, actually, Davin Marocek, the Toyota is closing in on Nicholas Huben, and Huben will be well aware of that. There he is. Marocek can see his prey, and there's already 3 seconds back to Erchan, so Marocek is flying.
And yeah, we're set for a grandstand finish then. Only a handful of laps left. Marocek catching at about a second a lap, but can he keep that up? Can Huben find anything to just keep him at bay? If he catches him just on the final lap, he might be able to just about hold on here, but it's going to be so tight between the two, and also tight between Simic and Michi Hoyer. These two, they know each other so well. Jerne knows exactly where Michi is going to defend, and Michi knows exactly where Jerne is likely to attack. So this is the problem. Familiarity certainly breeds contempt in sim racing.
Yeah, isn't that the case? So it's now going to be a case of who's got the life in their tyres, but also who's got the life in themselves at this stage of the race. You're looking at the time, you think, oh, God, okay, when you've been going for this long, this is the slowest part of the clock. It feels like every second takes 5 to come past. But either way, we're still being treated from the very get-go. There has not been a dull moment in this race. We've been treated to some amazing races, battles throughout the entire race. Absolutely fabulous stuff. Absolutely draining on the drivers. I wouldn't be surprised if no one comes to speak to us because they're all absolutely knackered. And I wouldn't blame them whatsoever, quite frankly. But here's another story. Joe Macaulay is looking at a potential podium here with Arda Erchan. I got it right all day, and now I'm getting it wrong. Now, bearing in mind that Arda Erchan finished 8th last time around, Macaulay was not in the points. So if he can get a podium this time around, what a surge for his championship.
Indeed. So Joe, who of course led in Imola, is now with those. I think he's got fresher wets than Erchan has got on here. So sort of Erchan and Grigoletto are in a similar situation where they've both sort of just got to hold on from those on the fresher tyres. You can see Macaulay has absolutely dropped Grigoletto at this phase. Marocek 2.5 seconds now on Nikolaus Huben. Simic within about 0.6 of Hoyer. Still a little bit too far back to make the dive. You can tell the characteristics of that Ferrari are saving it against the Peugeot. Will that be the case when it comes to Macaulay versus Erchan, where I think the tyre differential is a little bit bigger, whereas Simic and Hoyer are a couple of laps apart. It's a much bigger tyre differential between Macaulay and Erchan. So yeah, Joe Macaulay has, as you say, is keeping it on the island, being very, very sensible. Now the opportunities open up for him. 0.7, 0.6 between himself and Erchan there. Also, keep your eyes just a little bit on Wunsch and Leiden, because Leiden under huge pressure to hold on to that second place then in this late phase of the race. As Sebastian Wunsch, full credit to him. I think him and Macaulay have been the sort of sleeper hits of this race, quietly making their way up the order and not making a big fuss, but now making a big impression as there's Marin Pasir still stuck behind Luke Whitehead and pushing like crazy. By the way, just a word on Prendergast. We got a comment in the chat, which I believe was in reference to that moment he had at turn 1 as Pasir gets very, very close and has to back out. But DC89 said, first he said, how many more battles are we going to get treated to? Difficult to say at this point. Could possibly be anywhere between a none and 10. And DC89 then says, looked like his game was freezing from his stream, which I know Prendergast streams, so I'm going to infer that was him being referred to there. As Pasir is setting up Whitehead through 100R into turn 6 here. Has Luke Whitehead got anything in reserve? He tries to hog the middle of the road. Pasir backs out and now tries to focus on his exit here. So Marin Pasir, these two were fighting for the lead earlier. Who is going to finish in between the two? Marin Pasir with a point to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Marchek within 6 tenths now of Huben. It's very close for the overall lead. And here comes Pasir.
No, can't get it done though. It was a bold effort, but has he managed to wrong foot Luke Whitehead? We know how good a defensive driver that Ferrari is, but we'll see if he's able to hold on for another 4 minutes against Pasir. But Basir's got the inside line, has he? No, he hasn't got the overlap as they come through turn 13. I did spot there was a comment about contact. Well, I'm not really surprised there's a lot of contact considering how much water is down. So I would expect there to be a bit more contact than that. And we haven't seen haven't seen too many really, really silly mistakes. 1 or 2, but nothing too extreme. There is Joe Macaulay still nailed to the back of Arda Erchan, who's had a car
in the wall there. The headlights facing the barrier. And it's the 88 of Rodriguez down in 50. More issues for him, but we're about to see a move for the lead. Davin Marocek has coasted up to the back of Huben. 3 minutes left on the clock. Can Huben survive this assault as Marocek bears down on him like a ton of bricks? Marocek deciding to pick his moment here into the first corner. There's the GD3 on the outside, and Huben is going to survive for 1 corner longer. Got to be careful not to be hit by this 777 there is Davin Marocek, and he just survives that. But Whitehead continues to be under attack from Marin Pasir, but he's got the race leaders coming up to him. Marin Pasir is going to go off track. And the 2 hypercars just continue on their merry way there. Marocek still with a chance to snatch the leaders. Huben's rear tyres, they're bearing away. Macaulay has taken 3rd, by the way, from Arda Erchan just there. And now Marocek is just gearing up for another assault, flashing his lights wildly. He's only got a couple more laps here. This is a maximum pressure situation.
Absolutely is. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And still at it, Luke Whitehead and Marin Pasir for 7th position. They're not giving any quarter. Luke Whitehead, again, as he's done all race long, is just parking his car perfectly well to prevent... Pasir taking a little bit too much curb there, rearranging his internal...
Marocek's really close out of that final corner. Surely he's gearing up another go as Pasir goes very wide there. And Marocek through the spray. 2 minutes left on the clock. We're getting closer and closer to that final lap. Huben, he can't slow the pace down because Marocek is going to throw everything at him in this dying phase of the race.
Well, they've certainly got the percentage in the tank to do it as they bounce past either Prendergast or I suspect that is Prendergast. They've there you
Schindler.
go. So it's now Schindler. So those two are close together again. I mean, that'll be Prendergast recovering from that half spin he had. Oh my goodness me, is all down to this 2.5 hours with qualifying, with practice. The hands must be just bundles of sweat, and Pasir is still behind Luke Whitehead. He sizes up the inside line coming down towards turn 1. Can he get the Aston slowed down? I think Whitehead has seen that one and conceded the position. I think Luke saw that one coming, realized that the move was done, as there was an absolute missile of an Aston in the background. And still Marocek is behind Nicholas
This is
Huben.
the final map, and he's not got many more opportunities here. Marocek goes a little bit wide out of the turn 6 hairpin, but he gets good traction. This could be his last opportunity, Chris, into that hairpin of Dunlop here. Is Marocek close enough? Huben is immediately going to dive to the inside.
Yeah, no,
that's Andonovsky going for Wunsch as well for 3rd. But this is for the lead. And onto the grass goes Marocek, and he spins around Huben.
Oh my goodness, this is not what the leaders won. Well, is he? Because the move's not yet done. The Ferrari's still on the inside with the GT3s right ahead of them. This could go either way. Mrocek is just about in the lead, works their way past Adanovsky, who has made his way past Wunsch. And then gets the Ferrari almost boxed in. So Mrocek in the dying person of the lap nearly loses the lead on that final corner. Oh,
he's going to win, surely. This is it then for Davor Mrocek. 4 seconds, 3, 2, 1. The clock runs out, and on the final lap of the race, Mrocek steals the lead in the most controversial of circumstances. He fought all the way through that race, and it's Mrocek that wins from Huben, with Joe McCauley taking it a surprise podium in first. Side by side line, it's Andonovsky that just holds on from the narrowest of margins to third from Sebastian Wunsch. Meanwhile, we wait for Wojtek Polesny and Thomas Leiden to finish the final lap. Whitehead is just going to hold off Mark Veit, who very nearly slammed into the back of him at 100 miles per hour through a 30 mile per hour hairpin. So good save from Mark Veit, but he just misses out on a top 8 finish there. But wow, and there is Simoncic going to fall 1.8 seconds short of Michi Hoyer. But Polesny surely is about to win his class as well, or has he already crossed the line?
No, he hasn't. Polesny is actually still going, and there he is with Callum Cripps right on his tail. Well, that's not just that's not distracting at all for our GT3 leader. So yeah, I think everyone else in GT3 has actually finished in a big old slide out of Wojtek Polesny. He can't lose the lead now at this point, so he's just having a bit of fun. Why not entertain this? Because we haven't clearly had enough entertainment throughout the entire course of the race. But I mean, why not? Burn the tires to nothing. You don't have to pay for them. But absolutely fair play to Wojtek Polesny. He did everything absolutely right, played the strategy perfectly. You can just see now he's just wiggling around. Go on, give it plenty, son. Go on, get the tail wagging. There he goes. Well, just don't chuck it in the wall, because you do still need to cross the line. But Callum Cripps had a great ringside seat for that.
Yeah, here we come then. So Wojtek Polesny and Callum Cripps a couple of laps down. It doesn't matter. Wojtek Polesny not only wins the endurance race at Fuji, but takes the GT3 championship lead with a fantastic victory over Thomas Leiden there. Callum Cripps comes home a distant 13th, but he does get his first finish of the season. Survives in what are, let's face it, pretty treacherous conditions. And to boot, he gets a lot of screen time at the end, so he won't be too upset about that, getting the Porsche to the flag. But Polesny, he's doing donuts. He knows he pulled it out of the bag there to snatch the lead. It was that inspired strategy call in that final stint that set him up for that one.
Yeah, so very true. And again, just kept it consistent, just kept doing what he needed to do to keep building the lead, didn't make the mistakes that some others made, which is so easy to do when the track conditions deteriorate to this kind of point. Well played to all of our surviving drivers, irrespective of where you came. But before Stewart's intervention, because of where Polesny finished comparison to the hypercars, he's deemed to be a whole lap ahead of everybody else in the GT3. It's not quite that straightforward, but near enough. So Polesny takes the win. Leiden is second. Again, a wonderful effort in the BMW. Adanovsky from the back of the GT3s to come home on the podium. Again, a brilliant performance. Sebastian Wunsch in fourth. Schindler fifth. Prendergast, what might have been for the Imola victor in sixth position. Marin Becerra had gambled on the weather, didn't quite go his way in the Aston in seventh. Luke Whitehead in eighth. Mark Veit ninth. And Erwin Liskowitz in the Corvette gets himself into 10th. Remy Delorme in 11th with Fabian Balla in 12th. Callum Cripps, like you say, Ed, got a fair amount of screen time there in the Porsche in 13th. Regan Mitchell a couple of laps down in the Sol McLaren in 14th. We saw a late race departure for Michel Rodriguez, and we lost the BMW of Lucas Korsch and the Porsche of Luca Thingard in the course of the race.
So then here are the... Is it okay if I...
No. Carry on.
Here are after 103 laps of Fuji, here are the final results in Hypercar. Davor Mrocek with that amazing, scintillating move that apparently made me sound a little bit like I was getting extremely overexcited about something not to do with racing, according to some of the comments in the Discord channel. Davin Rocek snatches away victory from Nicolas Hoop and held on for as long as he could, but there was that contact at the chicane. Rocek muscled his way through. We'll have to see if, much like the race last season here at Fuji, whether the stewards intervene and rule on that. Joe McCauley, meanwhile, with a late move on Ard Erchen, both of whom had really, really strong races, it must be said, to take third and fourth, respectively. Fabio Grigoletto, that spin really costing him, consigning him to fifth position, but nonetheless, he's ahead of some of his championship rivals, including Michi Hoyer, who just about held off Jene Simoncic. Hoyer and Simoncic gambling on the mediums, much like Morocek. Morocek was able to make the time up. Hoyer and Simoncic sadly ran out of laps to do so. Sven Gielhed, our pole sitter, was down in eighth after hitting trouble late on. Henrik Gamble was ninth, and Marco De Buono rounded out the top 10 in his Ferrari. Just missing out on the points was Daniele Farinelli, who also had a tricky end to the race with several spins. Unfortunately, we lost Mikolai Hatrishki, Paul Lepere, Jack McConnell with a pit lane speeding penalty, Jules Neal, and Walter Natrilla with damage early on. So a lot of casualties in this race, but those that got to the end, pretty much all, were rewarded with very, very good points. So that's possibly the most exciting VMS race we have commentated on in the championship's history. And it's only round 2, Chris. And that's why I love the endurance races, because they are so absolutely completely unpredictable. You might think somebody has it made and then the rain falls, or there's a huge collision. There's all sorts of things that can happen.
Yeah, exactly that. And at no point did we know who was going to be victor. I mean, sometimes you get somebody just break away and that's it. You know, you don't see them again until the flag falls. But how many lead changes per class did we have? How many thrills and spills? And you think, oh, yeah, okay, this person's gaining on that person, so they're going to make the move, and suddenly they're in the wall. So, and I feel this close and this talented, it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal season.
Well, we do have one of our class winners that's ready to talk to us. It's the GD3 winner. It's the Czech Republic's very own Vojta Polesny. So Vojta Polesny joins us now. Congratulations, Vojta. That was an absolutely spectacular win in the end. The race started off with you qualifying in the middle of the top 10, if memory serves. You were involved in several battles with the rest of the Mustangs, and I think what really made your race was that decision at the final pit stop to sort of wait very, very late, drag out that stint on the mediums, and then go for the wets, which allowed you to fuel the car a bit less and jump Thomas Lydon for the lead.
Hi all. I think that was not a plan, because it always depends on conditions. But yeah, I think my pace was good. Even I was saving fuel a lot, and yeah, it pays off. So I jumped the all by the GG move over the pit lane, and you know, it counts.
Indeed. Chris, do you have any questions for our new GD3 Championship leader? Because he had a lot of challenges to overcome today, and he passed them with flying colours.
Absolutely true. Good evening, Wojtek. Now, I've had the great pleasure of commentating on you numerous times over the years and seeing you go from strength to strength to strength. What makes this particular championship stand out for you in comparison to the various other championships and sim racing machinery you've raced before?
Oh, hello, Chris. I think the championship is quite competitive. There is a lot of drivers on the highest level of sim racing, like Luke or Timothy, and many more. And it means a lot for me, actually. But it's still second round of the championship, I think, out of 8 or 9, something like that. So it's just a start. It's just a start, and all will be around the consistency. So yeah.
Now, I will say, because I've had the pleasure of your company for quite a few years, it's very difficult for me not to be impartial. There's a little bit of me that is voting Camp Polesny, but I'll try and keep that. I'll try and keep that under wraps. But no, that was a brilliant win, very, very well deserved, and I'm sure it will not be the last time we see you on the top step of the podium, sir.
Hope for.
Yeah, well, congratulations then to you, Wojtek Polesny. You're right, actually. It's 9 rounds in the championship. The next one is Bahrain on the 11th of May, by the way. So look forward to that. We go back to doing 2 more sprint races before the next endurance one. So I'm sure there's plenty of time for Wojtek to get on terms with Prendergast in the sprint championship as well as leading the endurance one, which he does because we only had one endurance round so far as well. But anyway, thanks for joining us, Wojtek, and enjoy the victory and the champagne that comes with it.
Thanks, you too. Have a nice evening, guys.
Yeah, I think that is all the interviews. Not that we got time for. We got probably enough time to do more, but nobody else has the energy.
Not surprised.
With
Not
Wojtek,
surprised.
Wojtek even did the extra lap, and he still. I guess it was a very
That's true.
relaxed extra lap where he was just playing with Callum. But I guess we got time to do an ad read, haven't we? So because our sponsors might like that. So the SimGrid Platinum Sprint is, of course, proudly sponsored by the SimGrid website, of course. So it is the largest sim racing event hosting platform in the world, helping communities grow and develop since 2019. There's a link to SimGrid in our description of this live video to check out all the events happening on SimGrid, not just here on Le Mans Auto, but on very many other sim racing platforms as well. And I think that's the only one we really have to plug that we haven't mentioned so far. You can see Coach Dave on screen as well. So they are a premier setup and driver analysis platform that not only do Le Mans Ultimate, but also Assetto Corsa Competizione, iRacing, we believe rFactor 2, and several other platforms too. So there's another link in the live description somewhere on the SimGrid one that says Coach Dave on it. Click there and you can get some great tuition from those guys as well that could well make you an absolutely even better driver than you already are. Not that you need it, of course. But anyway, I think time for final thoughts then, Chris, if we can collect them, because I think this race defies description in a way, because so much happened. There was never a dull moment in those over 2.5 hours there.
Yeah, exactly. That is, you don't expect a 2.4-hour race just to be constant battles everywhere you look. I mean, yeah, thank you very much to Nick Domino, our production guru, who just found the battles constantly. Yeah, there were plenty to choose from, but again, we very much appreciate his efforts in pointing us in the right direction, because that's no mean feat either, choosing which battle to look at when they're just everywhere. So, but yeah, that was just absolutely phenomenal. It just is such a wonderful way to advertise the series, and how close and how clean. Yes, mistakes happen, obviously, especially with the rain. It's going to magnify any potential for mistake, but we're enjoying some of the best in the business doing what they do best, and wow, are we enjoying the entertainment they're giving us.
I just seen a comment in the live chat from Callum Cripps. He says, "Cry for rain and then choose the wrong tires."
I saw that.
I think that's I think that's unfortunately the case for a couple of people as well. Not even the very, very best got caught out, but the very, very best were still able to rise to the top. So congratulations to Davin Morocek for winning on track at least. Let's hope. I think for his sake, I would love to see him keep that win, because it was a spectacular drive from Morocek, and I believe he does lead the Hypercar Championship. And of course, to our GT3 winner that we heard from, Wojtek Polesny, who strategically outfoxed everybody in the GT3 class today and had great pace to boot as well. So there are 2 championship leaders in the overall and endurance standings. We'll be back at Bahrain in 2 weeks' time for the first of our 2 sprint races in May, at Bahrain for round 3 and Sebring for round 4. So I'm sure they're going to be very, very excited. I look forward to covering them with you, Chris. Thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks to Nicolas Domino in broadcast version. Thanks to everybody at VMS, and not least of all, thanks to you for watching and taking part, because we love having your support and it makes a world of difference to us. So we hope you enjoyed all the chaos and mayhem that Mount Fuji had to offer. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the next round in the Platinum Split. But until then, enjoy Contender and Pro, which are also well underway in the middle of their seasons. We believe 4th of May is the next Gold Split race at Bahrain, of course, on that Sunday. So you'll hear from me and Chris then. But for now, bye from Fuji.